It's about 3:56 now. We've changed a couple things here. It's 93. You're telling us about the arrival of the motorcade.
Okay, sir, as I was saying before the motorcade, from the presidential limousine and the car and so forth, there was several motorcycle policemen riding ahead. And as I said, not to be repetitious, two of the motorcycle policemen seemed like to be very good friends, and maybe you could see that they said something to one another. As they was turning off Houston Street onto Elm Street, it seemed to make their motorcycles backfire. There's something in the kind that added a little bit of spice, I guess, or some type of pleasure to it to them, because I guess it was something for them to ride in presidential motorcade. Maybe it's the first one they ever rode in. It might be the last one. I do not know. But they was just turning onto Elm. The motorcycles backfired, and they came on around onto Elm and was going down toward the triple underpass. Saw the president as the limousine turned off of Houston Street onto Elm, and believe it or not, I said to myself, I said, how real looking they actually look. But that statement I made of some of the pictures I'd actually seen of the president in jacket and like look and so forth, some of the other magazines that had actually did live footage coverage of some of the other motorcades in other cities, I said that the photography was just fantastic. Anyone from, say, another country could recognize, if they'd studied the pictures and knew who they were looking at. It was just fantastic. And then seeing it with my own eyes, I knew that was something I'd probably never see again. Be that close to another presidential motorcade, because, as I said earlier, it was my first time I ever saw one. And, every day you don't have a presidential motorcade come by where you work. They was going down toward the triple underpass, and I heard what sounded like a motorcycle backfire, but it wasn't. It had a different sound. From where I was standing, there was some trees and people, so I actually couldn't see. But what actually happened on the first shot, but I knew it wasn't a motorcycle backfire, because I compared the two that had just happened seconds earlier, and it didn't have the same sound. There wasn't any motorcycles close to me. So I knew that, and I was thinking that, how different the two sounds were. Then I heard two in succession. And then I realized, as people began running, and it became quite chaos, that what I had actually heard was not more motorcycle backfires, but someone was firing a weapon. And the way the people were acting, I know one of the girls that worked in one of the publisher's office came running back from the steps, crying and said that they had killed the president, they had shot him. And what happened after that is now, you and I know the history, because it was all over the news that the President of the United States had been shot.
All right. Now, I'd like to have you continue from right there. Now, you're still standing there. You've heard these other noises. They sounded other than backfires. And now you've heard from a lady in the crowd, and probably several people right after that the president's been shot. Are you going to keep standing there on the steps? Are you still standing there with Billy Lovelady and Bill, I can't think of this other fellow's name.
Bill
Shelley? Do the three of you just kind of talk to one another, or do you say, what happens then?
No, sir, I didn't. I said earlier that Billy and Bill Shelley had went down from the steps and on closer to the curb, actually, that ran
Now we've got a different thing. We don't have a parade atmosphere. Now we've got kind of a shock situation. Does this mean you can run right back in and go to work? Or does this mean you stay out on the steps and you kind of talk to the people who have equally been surprised or whatever? What kind of an atmosphere prevailed? What was going on then?
Okay, sir. At this time, I continued to stand right there on the steps where I was. I stood there and I talked with several of the women there that worked upstairs, as I said earlier, in some of the publisher's office. And there was quite a chaos going on in the crowd at the time. There was people laying down there, people hollering, screaming. There was policemen, running, checking out here, checking out there,
Did you hear any more backfires?
No, sir, I did not. I was in 3 shots.
Okay.
I heard 1 and then 2 in fast succession. And that's all I heard was 3.
I don't want to interrupt you, but just in terms of a little guidance, at that time, I know everything is like you say, chaos. Had you developed an opinion what you heard? Like, for instance, it came from up top or down below or around the corner? Did you get any idea, instinct?
Okay, sir. The way it sounded to me, like I said, I knew it wasn't backfire from motorcycles. I knew it was actually the firing of some type of weapon. And how I know that is only through firing a weapon myself. You know how they sound. It sounds entirely different. There's no comparison. But I knew it didn't come from my left-hand side. It came from my right-hand side. And it sounded, back up, now off to the right. As you have heard a lot of people say in the direction of the underpass or the nose. But from where I was standing, if you look on the picture, it's...
Are you on the picture?
No, I'm not on the picture. But what I was trying to say, it sounded like it came from up and above. But that was my only personal opinion at the time. I didn't know.
And up, of course, was
Up in the building.
part of it up in the building. And to your right at the time, may that go down into the building plaza, the part that a lot of people call the knoll, or the grassy knoll. So it's down in that, your impression was it was to your right, which is the grassy knoll area, but up higher than where you were standing.
Right.
Was that grassy knoll higher than where you were standing? I'm not too sure on that.
Well, sir, I wouldn't want to know. I wouldn't want to say because honestly I don't know. Because I never even went out to that grassy knoll. I never been there. So I wouldn't know where it was higher than the steps. But all I know was that the sound did come from the right of me and sound like it was up at a higher level. Not where I'm not referring that it came from the grassy knoll. No, I'm not sure. I'm not saying I don't know if it came from my right or it sounded like it came from my right and up higher.
Okay. Just one more question, because I don't want to interrupt you, but did these 3 shots that you heard, these 3 noises, did they all sound like they came from the same area? Or as opposed to one shot sound like it came over there and another shot over here, Did you arrive at an impression to that? The noises that you did hear, they were to your right and they were up in the air. Does that apply to all 3 noises you heard, or was that just the first noise you heard? Or the next 2, or whatever?
The noises I heard was all similar. Or I would say, you'd have to actually say, which I'm not authority, I don't have any way of measuring noises, but they sounded all 3 the same, as if made by the same type of weapon or instrument or whatever you were be referring to that would make that type of sound.
But they all from the same location?
Yes, they all sound like I say, the first one was fired, and then it would seem like a lull of a few seconds, and then there was one, and then there was another.
But even the last 2 sounded like they
It was quicker in sensation. Yeah, so they came from the same area and the same direction, and they both had the same sound.
same kind of noise from the same kind of general direction. And the only thing that was maybe significant is it was 1 and then 2, 3, like that. It wasn't 1, 2, 3. It was 1, 2, 3, like that. Okay. Pitiful, you got a question while we're... Well, no, I don't interrupt him, but while we're trying to get as much detail as we can out of his impression of the shots, maybe we had another question. I don't have any more questions, so I'd like to have you continue.
Not on this count.
So, you've got the idea in your mind about these shots, and now you stayed there on the staff.
I talked to some of the people, and at the time, the lady I was talking to, the heavyset lady that I referred to, which I can't remember her name, she or I, neither one went down onto the street. We stayed right up on there because we knew something was going on. And I made it up, I said, I think we better stay right here. And something just told me that, just stay right where you are. Don't move, don't be moving around. Because at that time, the girl had come up and told us that somebody had shot the president, yourself. Just common sense. Don't be running and moving around because somebody's looking for that person. And if you're running, they might think that you're involved. So I just stood right there, and I stayed there for, I don't know how long I stayed there, but I stayed there a good while. And then, when the people began to move back into the building, they're going back up to work, go back up into the areas of work, I said to myself, and I stayed down on the bottom floor right down outside Mr. Toole and Bill Shelley's office there, and talked around, and I knew they had a lot of people entering the building, plainclothesmen and, police officers, and I know Bill Shelley told us to stay all down there because I think, I'm not sure, maybe someone asked him to count for all these people. And after we all got there and he counted for us, he told us that we stayed around and talked 3 minutes. Excuse me, sir. And we talked 3 minutes, and I hadn't eaten my lunch, so I was hungry. So I said, I said something, I said, well, Mr. Shelley came out looking for me, I said, I want to get my lunch, I'm eating my lunch, I'm hungry. So, like I said earlier, sometimes I eat my lunch down in the basement. Well, I went down to the basement, sat down on some cartons there, and I sat there eating my lunch. And I put it nice and good, like I normally would have. I ate my lunch, and then I went right back on upstairs, and hung around up there, and then they finally told us, they said, well, what was going on there, and it was many people in there, plainclothesmen, as I said, police officers, Secret Service man, and so forth in there. They finally just told us after they found it was all there. They took a count of who was there and who wasn't there. And they finally, I guess, I don't know whether it was Mr. Truly or Bill Shelley's idea or whose idea it was, but they went in and told us they'd give us the rest of the day off. And so I went on down and got in my car and I went on back to Irving. But when I was going out there, I turned on the radio. I listened to the radio, and the radio program, they was, the announcers, you could tell in their voice that they were very excited and very emotional the way they was talking about the subject. They was talking about a very bad thing that happened downtown Dallas a few minutes. At a certain time when the President of the United States had been shot and he'd been taken to Parkland Hospital where he was being worked on by, doctors there. And so I went on out to my sister's house, and my stepfather and my mother was staying there, had come up to visit us. And my stepfather had become ill. The old man had had heart trouble, had heart attacks. So I think he had a mild heart attack, and they had to take him to the hospital. Well, I went up to the hospital there, and he had to be given oxygen. So I went in, and I was giving him oxygen. When my sister said she was there, and I told her she had to go somewhere. I said, well, I can give his oxygen when it comes down. I said, nurse, come in, show me how, and I can do it. She can come back there and run quick. So we agreed that okay. So she went ahead, and I was there, and I was in the process of giving him his oxygen. And my nurse came in and showed me a phone call. I said, phone call? She said, yeah, you got a phone call. I said, well, you tell him to call back. I said, I have to. She wasn't the nurse that was over administrating telling me how long to give the oxygen. She was just a nurse in the station there. So I told her, I said, would you go back and take an that time, when it came time for he take my box and they came in and so far, and I was there 3 minutes. Girl come back in, she leave up, said, people call back in. Well, when I went out the door, I didn't have a phone call. I had 2 detectives there waiting for me. Well, the way they acted, they scared me to death. You know yourself, if somebody grab at you and you don't know who they are, and that's your first thing to do, you're going to run or try to get out of the way. Well, I knew we passed them. I was going around down the hall, was running, and they told me to stop, or they fired. And, or something to that effect, you know. I was old enough, I had seen enough TV that knew that when they told you to stop, you got to stop, or they would open fire.
Wait a minute. I didn't understand something. So when you came out, and I understand you started to run it?
No, when I came out of the room, I always took a funny feeling I had. There was these 2 guys, and they grabbed at me. But I never seen these people before. So that scared me. So actually, I tried to just get away from them, you know what I mean? Because I didn't know what they wanted, you know. I didn't know them, you know. So I maneuvered and got past them there and made a right turn and turned out the exit, which was on that short piece, like this long, they tried to get me. And I get pretty close to the door, and they told me to stop. Oh. And so they came back and put me against the wall and pushed me. You know, people walking by, they didn't know what's going on. You know, they're standing, staring, you know, until people go on, you know.
I wish you would be a little detailed about what they did. Put you up against the wall.
Then they brought me back there, and then, you know, they dressed me and shake me down, you know. And after they did all that, then they found out who they were. And I told them, I said, they thought it was kind of strange that I ran, you know. Well, like I tried to tell them, I said, well, you know, what would you do if you walked out the door and somebody started grabbing at you? And I said, you know who they were. I said, wouldn't you try to get away from them? I said, especially as little as I am up against you 2 guys. I said, I'm no match for you. The one was a big fellow, the other was a real stocking fellow. And me being a young man, you know, 19 years old, I can't take on 2 grown men. I told them afterwards, you know, at first these 2 detectives, they were very leery of me, but they soon turned out later on in the evening to be 2 of my very best witnesses, because they actually began to do what I asked them, put yourself in my place. And let somebody be after you, and you don't know they're after you, the way they handle it. And they apologized to me for the way they handled that. But they took me down Irving to the police station, and they kept me there for a while. And they asked me some questions and so forth. And actually, you know, I really wasn't aware of what was all going on, because I knew I hadn't done anything wrong, you know. I knew what had happened that day at work, and I had came home and went to the hospital, and all this started happening to me. It was, I don't know quite how to describe it, but it sure wasn't anything that I liked.
This was a hospital in Irving that you went to?
Matter of fact, it was the professional center. It was located at Irving Boulevard in Pioneer. They got a big sign on it, said professional center. And it is a small hospital there. And that's what my stepfather was at the time, you know. So they took me down there, as I said, not to be repetitious, they took me to the Irving Police Department. And they questioned me, and they helped me there for a while, and then they later took me down to the Dallas police station. And there they put me in a room, one of those small rooms, and they had different teams. They'd come in and they'd drill me about questions, ask me, and I'd tell them what I knew, and I'd tell them the same thing. They'd move back out, and he'd come in another team. And this went on for several hours. And after a while, Captain Will Fritz come in. I would tell him today I don't respect him for the way he treated me as an individual. As I said earlier, I think the way they handled the whole investigation was wrong. They was out push this on anybody they could and try to tie somebody into this. Well, he began to kind of tell me what I had done, and I made some remark, and I would be quiet and tell me. Well, actually, him being an older man, I guess, I don't know exactly what he thought or how he thought, but now that since I'm older, I would say that he probably thought I was a very disrespectful young man. But I don't think I was, because here I was being accused of something I didn't do. I knew nothing about. And the individual was telling me, asked me questions, and when I'd answer them, they act like I was not telling them the truth. And that made me very angry.
What were they accusing you of?
Well, at that time, when I say they, remember the Dallas Police Department and the detectives, they knew all of them. They knew that he rode to work with me and that I worked with him, and so therefore I can understand that in a way that they thought that I might know something that would be very beneficial to me, which I'm sure they thought. But I will say this, and I will tell them directly to their face today, that the way that they treated me, I think was very, they didn't show me any respect. Because in this country, I've always been taught that you're innocent until proven guilty. And they didn't have that. They weren't using that type of policy. They were going that you was guilty for proven innocent. And my personal view on this is, I think it's more interested in whitewashing the thing and trying to close the case, trying to keep the bad publicity from them, because I know no police department would like it be known that their procedures were so lax and their security was so lax that they let the President of the United States be murdered in their city. That's something I don't think the police department will ever live down.
Now, at this time when they had you in precinct in Irving, did they tell you that they had Oswald?
No, they didn't tell me that.
No. When was the first time you found out that Oswald was intoxicated?
I found that out either right before I went over to Dallas or when I was going to Dallas. I know they didn't tell me right at first, but they knew that I had worked there at the Texas School of Frazier. And I told them that before I left there that I'd been cleared to go home. I didn't leave on my own, The supervisor told me to go home, so that's where I went,
Now, Mr. Tully told you to go home?
No, I believe it was Mr. Shelley.
Shelley. But you were still standing on the stoop. After the president, did you see the president get shot?
No, I couldn't see.
Couldn't see.
I couldn't see because of the crowd.
Right.
And the scope of I heard the shots, but I didn't see any of the shots actually hit the president or the governor of Texas.
Right. Now, you're still there with the women.
Yes.
Did you go back in the building, or did you continue to watch what was happening out in the street?
No, I stood out. I still stayed
You
right
saw
there.
the steps.
And stood right there. We stood there for a good while.
The women were still there too. Did you see Ali come out of the building at that time?
No, sir, I'll be honest with you. I was telling people I didn't see him when he came out of the building.
But did you know he was out of the building?
No, I didn't know he was out of the building. I didn't know that Lee was, when I found out Lee was not there, was when we actually had a head count. And excuse that expression, but that's when the foreman got all the people work together. And we had us all out there with the fine boatman and the officer that actually see us. But they went down and asked us our names. We had our names down, and they come down and like a list checking you off. And he was right there to verify that is the man.
Right. Then the foreman said, all right, then you could go home. About that, everybody could go. I mean, they were going to close down while the employees were concerned for the day. About what time did they send you home? All was all employees.
I'm not sure the time, but I think it would be somewhere around between 1 and 1:30. I think it was around 1:30.
Well, did there come a time
when several of the police officers ran out of the book depositories going somewhere else? Did you know?
Actually, as I said earlier, after he shot the fire, there was policemen running everywhere. You know, you'd see some go in the building, you know, and they was all out there on the little side street right in front of the building, and all over there, because they just seemed like it was everywhere. You know, you could actually see the policemen and the policemen clothes. Now, they were all flamingos on there, too.
So then they let you go, and you went home to Irving. By this time you knew that Oswald was among the missing.
Yes.
Did you discuss that with anybody?
No, I didn't. When I came home, it was already on TV and everything. My sister knew it, you know.
About Oswald?
Yes, she knew that what had happened, you know, and he was helping there on the Texas School Book Depository. And we both, you know, said it was a bad thing, you know. But then she said, well, she says, I did. I went to the house first, and then I went off to the hospital. Because I know my mother was at the house. And because I asked where she was, and I asked where my sister was, and she told me she was at the hospital with her stepmom. So she'd been up there a good while. So, you know, I went up there to relieve her, you know, because he was pretty sick, you know. And like I said earlier, the old man had several heart attacks, and we didn't know where he was going to die or not, you know. And so I went up there to sit with him since I got off her here to kind of give her a little, you know, break or rest.
Did you know about Tippett at this time?
No, sir, I didn't. I didn't know about Tippett. I listened to part of the, as I was going out there, I turned it off.
You and your father now.
Yes.
Right.
I listened to part of it, and then I turned it off because I already knew that happened. That wasn't news to me because I was right there at the place. I knew that, you know, he'd been shot, you know, and they had taken him up because we heard there, you know, and as I was going out, I said to Irving, you know, they said it on the radio, so I knew what was going on.
Were they broadcasting a description for Oswald at this time? Or did you know at this time that Oswald was being sought?
No, I didn't know Oswald was being sought. But I will tell you this, I knew that he'd been arrested, you know. And I said to myself, I said, oh my gosh. That's why I said right now that I often wondered, you know, I didn't know that he did it, you know. But you know yourself, him being from a communist country and working right there in the building where it would happen. Naturally, he'd probably be the first guy that they looked for. Or they would question, knowing his background. But then as later on the afternoon wore on, you know, I found out that, you know, the policeman had been shot over at, you know, Tippett. What's his name, J.D.? The police officer had been shot. But actually, I never actually knew that Lee had done it until after I'd already been taken into custody and was,
Did they give you a reason for taking you into custody? The police at this time when they came to the hospital and they took you to Irving?
well, when they had me in custody there, they frisked me and everything. They told me, they said, I'm sure you know what has happened. And I said, yes. I said, I know the President of the United States has been shot. They said, that's all I knew. And you turn the TV on, turn the radio on, they're just repetitious. I said, yes. And I said, I know I worked there at the building, but I said, I told them I had permission to leave. And I did so. And, but, you know, sometimes you can think things, but, you know, you don't want to say bad things out. You know, I'm the type of person, if I think something bad, I never want to accuse anybody of something until I'm sure. As I said, repetitious for home, you know, I wondered, you know, if he'd actually did it, you know, about his back.
While you're driving?
Right.
While you're driving, did you also think about the curtain rods? You're driving home now. You hear on the radio that Oswald's involved, missing, whatever. Did your mind go back to the package in the backseat?
No, sir, they did.
When did you first think about those curtain rods?
Well, actually, when I'd been taken in custody and people started asking me, and then they asked me, they said, did he have a package with him? So he's been reported that he had a package with him. I said, what did it look like? And I described the package to him.
marina?
No, sir, I didn't see any of those. Like I said, when I went on to the house there, I went on, backed my car up there by the carport.
Having trouble driving home?
No,
Nobody stopped you?
no, sir, nobody stopped me.
Did you see anybody being stopped anywhere?
No, sir.
The police weren't checking cars along the way or whatever?
I went right out the freeway just like the, like the limousine, or whatever vehicle they took him into the Parkland Hospital. So I went right out the airport. I didn't have any problem going out the freeway. I went right on out the freeway.
Did you have any problem when you got near your house?
No, sir, I didn't.
You didn't have any problem, period?
No, the first problem I had was when we got to the hospital. That's when the two detectives, because what they did, they went to my sister's house first.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mother, they come in and asked her. My mother said, well, he went up to the hospital to believe his sister up there and said, well, her husband, except for.
Now, we're talking about, even though your sister doesn't live right across the street from Mrs. Payne's house where Oswald had spent some time on weekends, we're talking about the house at the corner. Now, is it the kind of a corner that you're across the street from her so you can look down the street and see the Payne house, or are you on the same side of the street on the corner?
We're on the same side of the street.
On that corner?
On that corner.
Are you on the corner where I'd have to cross the street to walk in front of Mrs. Payne's house if I walked out of your house? Or are you on the corner that if I walked out of your house I wouldn't have to cross the street, I'd just walk down the block maybe about halfway?
No, my sister was living in a home that she would have to cross a street.
Right. And then walk halfway down the block?
Right, then walk on down the sidewalk.
Okay, I got you. So you're living on the other side of another street, but you're on the corner. So you're as close to living in that block as you can get, but you're just on the other side of the street, whatever.
Right, now we have a side street there that comes in between us.
Okay, I got you. You got any more questions, man?
That day, just before the last time you saw Oswald, was he nervous or anything? Or at any time did he seem nervous?
During the morning working out?
During the morning working out?
No, sir, he seemed about, normal to me. He was walking around, filling his orders,
Now, you said on your way, he was in the car when you came out. Well, he was standing outside the car, he put the package in the car, and you came to work. And you two discussed the arrival of the president? That he was going to be coming down by the book depository or something?
It was mentioned temporarily, looking at the weather, I said something, some statement about, looks like it's going to be bad weather for the, presidential motorcade,
Did he comment on that?
He looked at the weather, I don't remember whether he said anything or not, but I know we did mix because it was kind of misty and rainy.
Did he seem to be happy that the president was coming, or did he have any reaction toward the arrival of the president that you know of?
Nothing unusual, when I say unusual, he was just like himself, I remember that morning going to work, we talked something about, I asked him did he enjoy playing with his children, and he kind of chuckled and laughed and said yes, but as far as him making any comments on, the president's motorcade or anything.
But he knew that the president was coming.
Right, because it was in all the papers, and so forth, and it even showed the route that he would take. So practically anybody that was really interested in wanting to be where they could see him easily would have no problem, because I think the route was publicized 2 or 3 days in advance.
Now, when you were standing in that doorway, Billy Lovelady and the other fellow was down by the curb, watching the president. After the shots were fired, did they come back in your direction?
Not right directly. They came back in a few minutes.
Right. Did they tell you what they had seen, or did you all discuss what had just happened?
No, they said practically about what the young girl said. They said somebody, had shot the president, and that was it,
Was he junior there at that time?
I don't know where Junior was doing all this. I don't remember, because
Do you recall him talking to Lovelady?
on the day that it happened, or
That time, at that right then while after it happened? police wasn't letting anyone in the building at that time. In other words, they were having a head count.
Well, once we got in there, they didn't let anybody out, after they called us back in, and we was all back in there for a head count. They didn't let anyone out, or let anyone in.
Did you ever take any pictures with Oswald?
Pictures?
Yeah.
No, sir.
Never took the two of you a picture, or a group picture or anything?
No, sir.
Okay.
Did anybody take any pictures of Oswald?
Not that I know of.
Okay, let me ask you about these two motormen that made their motors backfire. Where were they when they first made their motors backfire?
As they was turning off of Houston Street onto Elm, it was about, if you could measure, about halfway through the turn there.
Right.
Just about
And they
halfway.
were right in front of the limousine, so if they were right in the middle of that turn, that meant the limousine was still on Houston getting ready to make the turn. Is that about right? All right. Now, were you in a position to see more than two motormen? Did you see a third motorman?
To be honest with you, I don't remember how many motorcycle policemen they had with that day.
Well, let me see if I can kind of, what I'm getting at is, did you see one of the motormen, no matter, I don't know how many they had either, to tell you the truth, but one of the motormen didn't make the turn down Main Street, come over here on Houston, and everybody getting ready to turn down on Elm, except one fellow. One fellow goes straight, right down beside the side of the depository. In other words, he stayed on Houston. He didn't join
I
the
understand what you're saying.
Okay.
No, sir, I didn't see that. Now, I won't say he did, or he did not.
Now, just, you keep still talking about you're standing there, you're out there to see a parade, so you're looking. Did you see somebody say a little commotion, like maybe some woman or somebody fainted, and they had to call an ambulance? Somebody got sick or something out in the crowd.
Nothing. I couldn't call nobody's name, because I would know that.
And you don't remember an ambulance coming by and picking somebody up? Where you could see, this is maybe just before the parade.
Not that I know of now, sir. Now, he could have had.
No, I understand. I just want to know what you remember seeing. And in that regard, what you remember seeing. Do you remember seeing a kind of an unscheduled little parade, I'll say, because here comes a fellow driving down the street or in the way of the parade, and he's driving a commercial vehicle. Remember seeing that? Like a guy, not like a taxi cab, but an automobile that's all painted up.
No, sir.
A businessman sometimes will take his own automobile, like say a 54 Chevrolet, and he'll put signs on it and everything else, and all of a sudden it becomes Mr. Frazier's supermarket. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're talking about like how some of the local hats and
Sure, right.
Like advertising.
Sure, they do that. Did you see such a vehicle just before the parade?
I can't remember one.
Okay, all right. Before you lived with your sister out on Fifth Street and whatever the other street was, but out in, what do you call it, that's Irving.
Yes.
Where did you live before that?
Before I lived before that, I lived with my mother and stepfather down in Huntsville, Texas.
Oh, so when you came to this area, you moved right in with your sister, and that's it. All right. Then it would be a fair statement to say that you never lived in Oak Cliff.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. Now, with regard to your doing business with the Dallas PD, the police department, did you ever attend? Were you ever put in a lineup? You know what a lineup is for the SS standard table.
No, I never was put in a lineup. I did say earlier that, that fingerprint me and, they got my photo there for, like a notebook. But, the local preacher where I went to church, I think she helped me out a lot, because he talked to, some of the people there, and, the two policemen that actually originally came out and picked me up was the men that administered me the polygraph test.
test, just sign a piece of paper. If you remember.
Honestly, I don't remember what I did now.
Now, with regard to these lineups, did you ever view a lineup? In other words, look at other guys in the lineup up there. All right. Now, get right on with it. When they decided that they were going to give you guys the rest of the day off because of what happened, you went and got in your car. Did you have any trouble starting it? Did that battery respond? Or did you have trouble starting it?
No, it started up. Started just fine.
Okay. Did you have any hesitation in your mind about using the radio, considering the fact that you got a kind of a weak battery there?
Well, I didn't try to radio right on it first. I didn't, go down and got out on the freeway. Then I thought, well, I'd turn the radio on and, see what the news report was, see actually what was actually happening, how far along the news was anything new. And I listened to it for a while, and then it just got to be repetitious, so, I just went ahead and I cut it off,
Okay. Well, I'm thinking about your battery. I was wondering if you were thinking about it.
Well, generally, speaking, I would think about something like that, being older now, and I know more about, how a car works. I understand a lot better than I did when I was at that age. I know the radio doesn't do that much chips out of a battery. But if you don't drive a vehicle very much, you don't want to be playing radio a lot and, using lights and so forth and when you have to, because you don't drive very much, so you have to drive to a minimum to keep the battery charged up. But the reason why I cut it off before I got home was, like I said, it just got to be repetitious. It wasn't nothing new, and so
What I'm trying to do is trying to make these statements go together, because we're talking about a 54 Chevrolet that's got a 6-volt system instead of a 12-volt. You've got a generator instead of an alternator. And so electrically speaking, you get somewhat of an obsolete system, and it's subject to shortcomings. That's why they changed it all. And here you are having trouble with the battery like about a million other people. I was right with you at the time, by the way. But you play the radio, so you must have had a pretty good interest to turn that radio on, even with bad battery.
I wanted to know what was actually going on.
Okay, I just wanted to make that point. So, when you got home, and then of course you turned the radio off before you got home, so you don't no problem there. Now you put the juice back in the battery, and you're not going to be home very long before you're going to leave again, and you used your car. Did you ever borrow anybody else's car? You lived with your mother and your sister and your father, and stepfather, or whatever, brother-in-law. How many cars am I talking about in the family there?
Okay, my father-in-law, he had a car, but it was at my mother's and his home.
They didn't bring it with
No,
them.
they went with it.
What kind of car was it, if you know?
His last little car was a Tundra.
What color?
It was dark blue.
Dark blue. Remember if it was a convertible or station wagon?
No, it was just an old four-door sedan.
How about the year? Was it as old as your Chevy?
It was old.
We're talking 63, so yours was 9 years old. This was 10 years old or further back.
His was something like 51, 52, something like that.
51, 52 Plymouth.
Right.
Dark blue. All right. And it was a, what was it, 2-door, 4-door?
It was a sedan.
Sedan, okay. I guess he had Texas tags?
Yeah.
Texas. Did you ever drive that?
Well, I drove it when I was in high school.
In the Dallas area?
No, I never drove it here in the Dallas area, no.
No. Did he ever bring that dark blue 51 or 52 Plymouth up here?
No.
Anytime he went? All right.
We used to come to Dallas before I moved up here. We used to come in the old Chevrolet line.
Okay. How about your brother-in-law? What kind of car did he have?
Well, he's had a lot of cars.
Around
About that time, that's what I'm saying. Get a lot of cars. They used to trade cars for regular. I get different cars for regular back in. I think he had Oldsmobile. think it was 60 mile ocean. Could be wrong. And then they had a 65 mile Chevrolet. And I don't remember whether they had the 65 mile Chevrolet after the Oldsmobile or before the Oldsmobile, but I know it's, a good guess would be the 60 mile Oldsmobile.
You remember the 60 mile? What was it? A sedan? Or
Yeah, it was a sedan.
what do you call it?
It was kind of a Doodle Sprite.
So we're talking about the Plymouth, and we're talking about the Oldsmobile, we're talking about a Chevrolet, 60 Oldsmobile wagon, a 65.
No, not a wagon.
No, I'm sorry, sedan. And you had a sedan, a 54 Chevrolet, and the Plymouth was a sedan, about 51 or 52. Your car was black, the Oldsmobile sedan was kind of a pale brown.
It was a two-tone. It was a two-tone. I guess they were red color and kind of like off-white white or beige with it, you know.
The Plymouth was all one color, dark blue. All right. Now, anybody ever, while you had your car, or while they had theirs, right in this time frame, did anybody ever get their car repainted?
No.
Okay. Now, did you have access to other cars? Did you borrow your neighbor's car if you had to? Or
No.
somebody borrow your car? So your car, you didn't own the car and then borrow it. All right. Do you remember, if you can, how Billy Lovelady was dressed that day, November 22nd, when you were not standing there?
Billy wore a lot of blue jeans and t-shirts. And if I remember correctly, Billy used to wear a blue jean jacket sometimes. But during the hot time part of the year, most of the year Billy wore, I would say, I know he wore blue jeans year round. Wore t-shirts. But Billy is he's a hot nature kind of fellow. You know, he's not very tall, but he's kind of stocky built. He's a real hot nature, and he never wanted to wear a lot of heavy clothes, you know.
How old was he?
Billy?
Yeah.
At this time, we're talking about in 63. Billy, I don't know. Billy is older than myself. How many years? I don't know.
He about the same age as Oswald was.
Billy is somewhere between, I would say, 5 and 10 years older than I am.
He about the same size, height and weight as Oswald was.
No, height-wise, they would be close.
But the weight.
Weight, no. Billy would be heavier. Oswald would be a little bit taller, a little bit more bent.
What
Their
kind of,
hairline was similar now. You know, both of them had a high forehead. And Billy does that. He said he does. He has a high forehead.
how about Billy's car? What do you have?
At that time, if I remember correctly, Billy was driving an old Pontiac, an old brown Pontiac. Now, he had it, and I don't know where he sold it. I know he sold it to one of the boys that works there. One of the young black guys that worked there. Billy sold it to, but I don't know where he sold it to him at that time.
Okay, that's about it. How about your parents?
Yeah, I have quite a few questions. I think we will run out of time. First of all, let me ask you this. At the time you were working at the power store, did you have a mustache?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been told that you look a lot like Lee Harvey Oswald? No. I just observed that while sitting there. Now, I'm really interested in your first one in down at the police station.
Okay.
You were telling me, and you made it plain to us, that you were a little uptight about the way Captain Frazier and some of the other officers treated you there. And you said you went into a discussion about they wanted to whitewash your name. Did anybody try to put any words in your mouth? In other words, did they try to make you say something that wasn't true? They're just talking between us now in the confidentiality.
I kind of got that opinion of the way they kept questioning. They kept going over and over. Let's say they'd send in one thing prior to another. They'd drill me for so many minutes, and they'd come back with another. And it was the same question. see if they could catch you in a different store, or you say something different. You know, I got the impression that they were trying to make me make a mistake, trying to tell them something I didn't know.
Did this questioning center around these curtain rods and packages and all that stuff?
Yes, to a certain extent. They found out that, again, that they knew that he had really worked with me that day, so they're very interested in, what he did that day.
Will you tell me what that package looked like? I mean, and what I'm talking to you about now, I'm talking about size and shape and so forth. Could you, if you could remember what it looked like, what it was wrapped in, how it was wrapped, how he carried it under his arm, or by it around the top of it, just give me some idea about the package.
Okay, I'll do the best I can. No.
Okay.
No, this is a big controversial item.
All right, that's why we need to go closer.
The package first was made out of common, ordinary brown wrapping paper that you can buy at any outlet that sells wrapping paper. Kind of like the 2-foot wide, 30-inch wide, whatever you want. Like the normal wrapping paper. The tape that it was put together with was the regular tape like you would find at any place that does packaging with a, that does mail order. What I'm trying to say is not the type of packaging that has letters on it, just a plain
Would it be the type of package y'all used when you were mailing books out?
yes, identical.
All right. It would be almost be possible to think that he might have taken some home.
That's possible. Right. You know, he wouldn't have done anything as long as he was asked for something, he would take it.
So it's that type of tape.
Yes, the type of gum tape like you use in packaging. As I said, I told the Warren Commission, and they questioned me pretty heavily on this. I told them somewhere around 2 feet. Give or take her. 2 feet. Right. Somewhere around 2 feet, give or take an inch here or there. But I told them that when I only glanced at the pattern, I didn't look at the pattern like I'd be looking at this man's briefcase, like I've been doing here. I pretty well described the briefcase, and I thought probably to a T.
Okay.
But if you just grab a glance at something, you don't see everything thoroughly.
2 feet.
Yes, I'd say roughly 2 feet there. Feel like that, give or take an inch. And what I did before the Warren Commission, they actually had me to make a package similar to what I saw. And I did that, visually and repeatedly.
Right.
And they told me, when I say they members of the Warren Commission and Mr. Ball, which was the attorney, they actually, after they got through cross-examining me on this package that I saw in the back of my phone, and after all that was all over, I had to make this package several times. Me and my sister did, Miss Randall. They was really amazed how close we came to the real package. And they found the real package. And they told me, now this is something that you don't read in the result, but they actually told me that this was the weapon was actually brought into the building. Whether Mr. Oliver brought it into the building, or Lee, whichever one probably brought it into it, I don't know. I know that one he told me had curtain rods. And that's all I know. And you would think curtain rods. You want to go in the store and buy it. You would extend the curtain. Then you push it back together. We recommend you measure. It gets pretty much somewhere around 2 inches. I never have measured one, but
Just around 2 feet.
right. And Mr. Brown told me there, since I was in not being cross-examined about this, and I mean, we made several packages, me and my son. And he said it was really remarkable. And he said the only time he believed he was going to told him about the package. He said he wasn't interested in what people or newspaper people believe and wrote. He said he actually knew about something one time. There's a lot of controversy on how to not carry the package. But when you carry the package, if you can imagine someone putting something tied into the arm here, and just like that, imagine the package sticking out back here. Now, I wasn't looking from the front. I don't know whether it was touching from his armpits here, or where he had it sticking, holding it down here, and had it up against his shoulder, pulling onto his shoulder.
the tape now. See, there's going to be a secretary who have to transcribe this, and it'll come out on your copy too. We'll just say that you stood up in the room here and you demonstrated the fact that you probably thought he carried it
Either under his arm.
either under his arm or maybe in a military fashion a little bit.
Or cupped in his hand in a military fashion.
Yeah.
Right.
In any event, you could see only from the rear, because you never did catch up with him. You were following there, and you were about 150 yards away. So what you could see was this package that extended underneath his arm. And I believe you used his right arm when you stuck your hands
He
there.
carried in his right.
All right.
The
So,
thing is, you couldn't see the whole length of the package. You only saw a little bit of the paper here and there, maybe where he's when he had his back up. And you couldn't see the whole length of the package. So therefore, like I said, not walking with him or walking toward him, I could not tell where he had up under his armpit or he had a little bit up on front of his shoulder. You can't tell.
was the jacket the same color as the paper? Do you remember?
To my knowledge, not. It's a different color. But that's the thing because that's interesting. Being in the military myself, I know that you can break weapons down and make them different ways. And this is something that I like to bring up. Even though you buy a weapon anyway, you can always customize it and have it where to break down different than what it would have it. And then be broken down to the proper machine that you could do that.
Okay, can I get back to my question?
Yes.
Would it be safe to say that he was carrying
Oh, mine is on.
Okay, it's now 5 p.m. We've taken a break, at which time we've also
It's on 4.
Would it be safe to say, as I was asking you before, that he was carrying a package under his arm?
I know he had it tucked in his right hand.
Okay.
Now, how he had it under his arm,
I couldn't see from his front.
I cannot see from the front to be specific.
Okay. Did you ever come a time when you actually saw the rifle that he used? Have you ever seen that rifle?
No, sir, I never have today. I never have seen it.
All right, that's all. What time did you get over to the hospital?
I really don't know, sir. Like I said earlier, I went home and I was there for a short time, then I went on up to the hospital. Exactly what time, I couldn't be specific.
You know the president had been shot.
Yes, sir.
Did you know Officer Tippett had been shot? I'm talking about before he got to the hospital.
Okay, by that time, I think my mother had a TV on. The children used to watch cartoons. I think it was on there.
Right.
I'm not for sure, but I think I did. I think it said that they had more news update on it. There was more update on the news.
What I'm getting at now is, and believe me, I don't throw any tricky questions. I'm just asking you, when you went to the hospital, did you know Officer Tippett had been shot?
I think I had some newscast, but I'm not for sure.
Okay. When you went to the hospital, did you know they were looking for Oswald? Or did you know Oswald was arrested?
No, sir, I didn't know they had arrested Oswald, but I knew that they were, since I've been on the news about them being in, they was on the lookout for a man, or they had somebody in the, what was it, Texas Theater, I believe it was, that they had somebody pointed in the Texas Theater. Now, I did not know at that time that that was Lee Oswald.
Okay. So, that's pretty close, because the Tippett shooting happened, and then pretty close after the Tippett shooting, Oswald was arrested. But what you're saying, in effect, is that between the time that Tippett was shot that you just about left home around the time they were making the arrest at the Texas Theater.
Yes, I
And
didn't
you
know.
went to the hospital.
Right.
Got no more news. And then until you run into these two detectives in the hall that grabbed you.
Yes. And then they, from talking to them, they cross-examined me there, asked me some questions, and they helped me, and then later on they called downtown Dallas. They said, bring me in.
All right. Did you know where Oswald lived over in Oak Cliff?
No, sir.
Did he tell you where he lived?
No, sir, I did not.
Did you know he lived in Oak Cliff?
He told me, an apartment over in Oak Cliff, but that's all.
But you didn't know he lived on Becker?
No, I did not know where.
Then the two detectives that came up to the hospital and got you, actually they took you into custody. Were they from the Dallas police, or what, from out here in Irving, or were they FBI agents or Secret Service agents? Do you know what organization they belong to?
Just my knowledge, they belong to Dallas. Now, I remember their names. Their names was Detective Rose and Detective Stovall.
Good. Thank you very much. I was getting ready to ask you that. Now, when you got downtown to the Dallas Police headquarters, they put you in a room. Do you remember any of the people that interrogated you other than Captain Fritz and the man who gave you the polygraph test? Do you remember any of the other testers? Did Stover and Rose interrogate you down there too?
Yes, they did go in there again because, they took their turns. I guess they had so many teams that was available there. And they came in and they cross-examined me and questioned me. And they began to believe after I got downtown Dallas, that I was actually telling them the truth. I didn't know anything at the time.
I'm going to ask you a question that, if it happened, may have been embarrassing to you. And I'm not asking it to draw out any embarrassment, but I really want to know the true meaning. Were you brutally treated? Did they hit you or anything? Did you receive any brutality, is what I'm asking.
No, sir, they never did hit me, but I actually think it came very close.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. I won't go any further into that. And incidentally, when I'm talking and questioning you, I'm not asking you anything to embarrass you or anything. I'm trying to get at the truth. That's all I'm trying to do. I asked you about were you brutally treated or anything. You made an indication that you and your sister made a package for Mr. Ball up in Washington, D.C. Did she testify also? If you weren't? Yes. All right, now she testified to seeing him come down the street with the package.
Yes, sir.
And the two of you made a replica of what you thought the size of the package were. You were separated when you did that. I mean, she wasn't standing there and helped you make the package. Or did she make a package and you make a separate package and the two of the packages came together? Or did the two of you make one package together a number of times?
Okay, here's what we did was that they cross-examined her for a warrant commission. She testified then. And they asked her what package looked like, and she told them to the best of her ability. Well, I told her what I thought. And so, some way, she and I both had the same diagnosis of what we saw in the package. And so, we kept asking that and kept coming to the same answer. And so they said, well, we gave you the material, could you make exactly what you saw? Together, she and I made it. But we never discussed it openly before we did it. Because they asked us that. They said they was going to ask us some questions. Before they ever started asking, they said, we're going to ask you some questions. They said, now, when you get together, they said, don't you talk about anything. They said, it's going to be very important. And I can see why it was, because that's what it was about.
If I remember now, you've already said that they measured the finished product and it was within an inch. What did you say?
He didn't actually tell us how close it was, but he said it was very, very close to what we actually said it was.
So it was very close to 2 feet. Is that what you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's right.
Now,
But they measured the actual package, as I said before, they found it where we'd been hid, and the one that we made, they said it was very close. How close it was, I don't know.
When you left the book depository on that day of the assassination, when they told you we're not going to do any more work, you can go home, did you know that some people were missing at that time that were not accounted for? You talked about them taking a head count and a roll call and so. Did you know some people were missing when you left to go home?
Yes, sir, I did, because I knew everybody that was working there in the building as far as down to the co-workers down there. I knew who was there that day.
Who did you know that was missing?
The first one that I missed, and the only one I knew of, was Lee.
All right, naturally. Okay.
And that's the only one I knew of that wasn't there, to the best of my knowledge.
You knew Oswald was missing.
Yes,
Did you tell anybody that?
No, because I didn't have to, because Mr. Shelley, Bill, was right there with the policeman. And he was the one that actually gave an account. Who was missing and who wasn't. Because after they took the roll call, they actually went down and pointed out people by the name.
Is there anybody else missing?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. When you found out that Tippett was shot, and when you actually found out, when you really knew that they had arrested Oswald, did you get scared?
Yes, I did. Matter of fact, I was scared before I ever actually knew all these things, because I never had been in any trouble before. And then here all of a sudden I was being picked up and I'd been taken to a large city and being questioned about something that, I was just an innocent bystander. I just happened to be there at the wrong time. I was a victim of circumstance, you would say.
I'm going to ask you one other question. When you were in that hospital room, were you worried about whether or not Oswald was missing because he had done something? Even though you didn't know he was arrested then. But when you were in there with your stepfather, was that going through your mind?
I had thought about it, yes, and I was hoping I was wrong, because like I said earlier, I never like to accuse anyone of anything unless I actually know.
Is that why you broke when those two men reached for you?
I wouldn't want to say yes, and I wouldn't want to say no, but when the girl told me, she told me I had a telephone call, and I was looking to go to the telephone and take the call. I wasn't looking for two men to grab me when I walked out the door.
While you were at the hospital, did anybody call you from home to tell you Oswald was in the middle of that cell? I'm asking you now, even though you told me that when you were up there at the hospital, that you left just before the news came out that it was actually Oswald. Now I'm asking you again, did you know that it was Oswald while you were at the hospital?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. When did Shelley and Lovelady move from the steps where you were standing? I take it you're talking about that first landing just before you open the door and go in to the book depository?
Okay, where I'm talking about, if you go to the Texas School Book Depository there, and if you stand right there at the entrance to that kind of little hall landing,
Right.
you can be seen whether it's sunshiny or cloudy.
Right.
Well, that's right there where they were standing, right there beside that wall, right inside. Well, actually, right before the motorcade got there, they said they was going down there where they get close to the curb, get a better look.
Okay. Motorcade had not come
No,
when they moved.
no.
Okay.
They had left before that.
All right. They moved to the curb before the motorcade came around the corner. All right. Johnny's motorcade is up here by just turning into Houston Street, heading this way or something. Was the motorcade in sight? Let me ask you that.
That I don't remember where they moved when it was coming on to Houston Street, or they moved prior. But I know they did prove that they did move from that entrance there prior to the motorcade turning in. Yes.
Okay. That is Shelley and Lovelady.
Yes.
They moved down to the curb. You remained on that platform platform like with the ladies.
Yes.
And you stayed up there until, let me put it this way. Where exactly were you standing when that motorcade around that corner and started down into the plaza? Yeah, as closely and as nearly as you can, put yourself right on that spot, on that step.
I was standing right next to this large headset lady there.
Okay.
It was mentioned previously, but I can't recall her name. I was standing right by her there. And if I remember correctly, we was right there close to where you would walk right out to the sunlight there, where you begin to go back to the shadows there. Because we was right out there.
Were you against the stone wall on both sides?
I know you got stone wall on either side.
Were you up against either one of those walls?
I was close to the left side.
That would be close to Houston Street. Okay. I think that's good enough for me now. And you stood there even when the motorcade made the turn, and you were there after the shots were over.
Yes.
Have you ever seen the picture that was in some of these books critics have written and so forth, of another lady supposedly sticking his head around the corner of the wall?
I have seen.
Are you familiar with the picture I'm talking about?
I think I'm familiar with a picture that has been very widely publicized by a man standing on the right-hand side up against the wall because he had the high forehead with a big white T-shirt on. Is that the...
That's the picture I'm talking about. Now, you know Billy Lovelady. You know the situation. You were there that day. Do you believe that picture was Billy Lovelady?
From the pictures I seen, I think it is Billy Lovelady. Now, here's a good point to make. When was that picture taken?
Right, I understand that. I think that's part of our job to put specifically where it was. We know it was at some time when the motorcade came through there. But I know what you're saying. But you're saying the picture you believe is Billy Lovelady.
Yes.
But in essence, what you just told me was, just before the motorcade turned into that corner, Billy Lovelady and the other man moved down to the sidewalk. Now, as you know as well as I do, and this is plain if you use ordinary reasoning, and I'm an ordinary man, he couldn't have been in two places at once.
That's
He
correct.
was either on the sidewalk or he was up there. And if the motorcade had not reached there, and the picture that we got is taken over top of the motorcade, as the motorcade is passing, if you look at that picture, that puts Lovelady up there when the motorcade is passing. Do you have any thoughts on that area?
I understand what you're saying. Man can't be in two places at one time. I haven't seen the picture that you're talking about, referring to in a long time, but I think something to be interested to look at was to get a very good photo of that and blow it up, because one should be standing very close to him, but be yet in the shadows and would not be picked up.
Right.
And I know him and, when I say him, I'm referring to Billy Lovelady. Bill Shelley and him was together practically the whole time.
Okay. What I intend to do is, before we leave Dallas, come back and look at some pictures and things, and let us do some things, but we're past that right now.
Can I ask one question here, just to clarify this a little bit? If that picture was taken, you mentioned when the first bullet was fired, and that depicted a guy standing up on those steps, kind of looking around the corner, that wall, could that have been Billy Lovelady? First shots fired.
It could have, yes.
I thought he and
Like you said, even Bill said that they was going to go down closer to the curb.
But when? Did they wait for the motorcade to come, or did they step down before the motorcade came? If that picture was taken when number one shot was fired.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, is I have stated earlier in the tape interview here, Billy and Mr. Shelley left before the motorcade came. Okay.
All right. Okay, I think we're going to now, I want to go back to another area we talked about earlier, but I want to go back a step further. Before the motorcade came, when the crowd was just beginning to gather,
They gathered milling around.
when people were just coming out from lunchtime and the crowd was gathering, it was getting time. Even before the applause and the momentum of the crowd picked up that you talked about before, there are some windows in the front of the book depository that at this time have been bricked up. But at that time, you could see through those windows. Can you follow me?
Yes, you talking about down on the first floor
On the
there?
first floor.
Okay, so I know how they used to have that tile there where you could see out through the windows onto the street, but someone looking from the street couldn't see you on the inside. It used to be a kind of a tile there. Is that some type
But
of
there
tile?
were windows there where you could look out on the street.
Yes.
Now, remember the time I'm talking about. I'm talking about before everything really got set. Before the motorcade or anything came, before the people started applauding around on Houston, on Main Street. Before any of that took place, there were some people inside the building standing in there. Were you at any time ever in that area there when people were looking out the windows and so forth?
No, sir. Not that I know of, because when I went out to wait for the motorcade, I stayed out there. I never did go back inside until after, the shots had been fired, and we stayed out there, talked for a few minutes, and milled around, then everybody started back into work.
You don't remember talking to anybody like Jarman or Lovelady or anything inside the building?
Not to my knowledge, I don't.
All right, how long had it been at that time since you'd seen, from before you moved out on the front, how long had it been since you'd actually seen Oswald in the building? Was it early in the morning? Was it 10 minutes before? Half an hour before?
To the best of my knowledge, I see him a short time before lunch.
Well, that's, in essence, what you're saying, a short time before you went outside, because you went outside for lunch. Is that right?
I went outside there because I hadn't eaten my lunch.
All right, tell me exactly where you were when you saw him.
Seemed like, to my best of my knowledge, the last time I saw Lee, he was in the area there where we lay out. We bring the books, lay out the order back for the freights to be checked, for the check.
First floor, second floor?
First floor.
First floor, in the area where you check the books. That'd be like in the middle of the first floor area. All right. Now, one other thing I'd like to stretch your memory into a little bit. When you departed from him, I don't care where you went, whether you were going to the toilet, whether you were going outside, but when you two split, which way did he go then?
He was... He was on the first floor. He was going in the opposite direction where I was. Last time I said I saw him was shortly before lunch because I was working on an order. But it had to come lunchtime in. I was walking around down the floor.
All right. But what I'm trying to get at, was he going toward the back of the building, toward the front of the building? The stairways back over in the corner. Was he headed that way? Was he headed over this way near the loading docks?
Okay, from the area that I last remember seeing Lee, he was right there in order where, like I said, we bring the books down for the check.
Right.
And from that point, you could go several directions, so I don't know which way he went.
Okay, that's good enough answer to me. Did you have any conversation with him at that time?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Incidentally, let me ask you this. Could anybody get on the elevator and run it, or did they have an elevator operator? The guy responsible for,
Yes, I understand what you're saying. No, anyone that worked there had the knowledge to get on and operate the elevator themselves, because often you had to get on the elevator and go up and get an order by yourself and come back down. So
Is that the policy? I mean, is that what it was done, or did they have a man to operate?
No, we had no one to operate the elevator there.
All right, so Oswald could operate the elevator himself.
Right.
Okay, that's all right. So I just got a couple more things, and then that's about it. When you went to work that day, can you remember what you wore to work?
No, sir, I can't be specific, no, sir.
When you were in police headquarters, did any agents, FBI, Secret Service, interrogate or talk to you, question you?
Earlier, tape interview here, I was questioned by several people. Now, I can't remember all the organizations that they represented, so honestly, I don't know. I know I was questioned by several teams. The only way I can remember how the people that questioned me was, as I mentioned, Detective Stovall, Detective Rose, and then Captain Fritz came in, because he seemed to be very disgusted that I kept coming with the same story.
That's sort of odd. I sort of pictured Captain Fritz as a kind of quiet, gentle type fellow. Didn't picture him as being, a hard, come down type thing.
Actually, I wouldn't want to describe Captain Fritz because I really don't know the man. I can kind of understand the man being in the predicament he was. His personality and everything might be just the opposite the way he was. But as I saw him today, that he came in there, he didn't show a nice personality to me. I know he didn't, the way he was looking, I could just tell he didn't believe me. The way, because he asked me a question and I answered it. And I know he didn't believe me.
Did there ever come a time when that night, that the police department searched your home? I mean, actually searched it.
They searched the home in which I was living at the time.
Your sister's house.
They came in and they either searched it before they came to pick me up at the hospital or after they came to pick me up. I don't remember. My mother was there and she is no longer living, so I can't verify that.
Okay. Did they have a search warrant?
That, I don't know.
Right. Let me stretch your mind a little bit, going back talking to your sister and your mother at that time. And I'm talking about after you've been taken downtown. And incidentally, did you ask for an attorney then?
Well, when I got into that much of the aspect of the game, I don't mean to refer this as a game. Let me make that clear. At the time that I had been taken down to the Dallas for question down there, I said earlier I had the minister with me and my sister went down with me. I did not have an attorney with me at that time, no. But I think it was getting to the point there where I was going to leave them pretty quickly until they actually began to believe what I was telling them was the truth. And I think two of the most instrumental people that later got me out was the two detectives that actually first came to pick me up.
So in essence, what you're saying is that you felt that it never got to the point for you to ask for an attorney. You didn't ask for one.
I didn't ask for one because I'll tell you one, I knew that I wasn't guilty of anything. I hadn't done anything wrong.
Right. But another thing, after you got finished at the police station, they let you go. And one other thing is, I don't want to pass it because I might forget it. That's why I want to ask you. You said that the minister and your sister went with you. Did they go with you? They picked you up over in the hospital. Was your sister with them when they picked you up, or did they bring you back home and then take you down?
No, she came, her and the minister came down to the Irving.
Okay. Now, they took you to Irving. They didn't take you directly to Dallas.
No.
They just told me that they have you out there in Irving.
Right, and they questioned me out there, and then someone in Dallas told them to bring me over to Dallas.
Okay, then your minister and the minister was out there. When you went down to Dallas, did they ride in the car with you, or did they come down separately and you go with two policemen? Did they isolate you and your sister and the minister? Take you by yourself and then they come down later?
To the best of my memory now, I could be wrong, but I believe my sister and minister went with me.
All right. Okay, let's stay with me. But after you got away from the station down there that night, and they said, okay, you can go home. Now, the normal thing, as I feel, to go home would be, first of all, when I walk in the house, my mother and my sister and my brother and whoever else was asking, what the hell is going on? And there must have been a conversation about what happened, and so forth and so on. What did they feel about the police coming in there and searching your house without a search warrant, without telling them anything? There must have been some conversation. What did they tell them when they came there?
Well, I don't know the exact words, but I know my mother didn't like the two detectives.
Okay. Did they turn up the house?
No, they didn't literally, go around and throw things in the floor or anything like that, but they did, search the house very thoroughly.
Okay.
They were mainly interested in what type of firearms was there.
Did they take it?
Yes, they did. They took the old British 303 I had, and I think I also had a double-barrel 16-gauge shotgun.
Did they return those?
Yeah, they returned everything.
Any handgun?
I never bumped. I own a handgun now, but I didn't at that time. But my brother and my sister, they never have a own firearm. They've always borrowed something from me. I usually, even today, they have the old 303 and that double-barrel shotgun. I just make reference to. They keep that down at home because I have several firearms in my home.
But did your mother and them tell you what they said when they came there?
Actually, she did make some references to that Mr. Day. I don't exactly remember everything, so I don't want to make any certain quotations.
All right.
But I can say this, as I said, not to be repetitious. She was very displeased with the way they acted.
Did anybody say they tried to get you at the hospital? Tried to call you at the hospital?
Not to my knowledge. I think that was something between the two detectives and they,
I know what they were doing. They didn't want to come in the room.
they didn't want to come in the room there where
I know what the situation was, but the last question I want to ask you is, have you read the book by George O'Toole, The Assassination Tapes?
No, sir, I have not.
About how he attempted to locate you and so forth. You have not read that book?
George O'Toole, excuse me, from my memory,
This book. Have you ever read this book?
no, sir, I never have.
I would suggest you read it. Are you aware that you're in it?
Yes, sir, I would like to talk to you about some things, sometime,
You mean off the tape?
Yes, sir, I will.
The tape is not.
Let's finish up with this one first.
The tape is stuck.
Yeah, he ran out of tape.
Who did?
I haven't run out of tape. The tape is half full.
And the tape was stopped.
The batteries are worn out.
You got it though, Max, haven't you?
Yeah. But I got a good thing.
Well, we'll have to back up to where it is and play your tape.
But the batteries, that's why you got your cord, right? That's why I hooked this.
Oh, I thought that's the only cord we had.
No, that's a cord. No, this is my cord.
Yeah, he's got a card and I got
We
one.
got a cord in there. So we've been using batteries.
Yeah.
This is plugging on this.
All you have to do is this, man.
All right.
Easy to take.
Plug the thing up into the wall, sir. So let's see where we left off.
We'll just have to take a break till we get to that part. If you want to, you can go ahead and finish with this tape.
How was the security at the book depository? Could anyone walk in there and walk around the place without being stopped? Or did they have a guard? question is for the day. Where did you have your car? Was it in a lot?
Yeah, it was down in the lot where I always park.
Right. Did any police officer stop you on the way out to check your car?
Not that I remember.
They were checking cars there. The people going home.
I don't want to say yes and I don't want to say no. I just don't remember. It could have. I don't know.
And that morning now, after this business with Oswald was arrested, they had you down, they cut you loose. And when was the next time you went back to work?
You mean the next day?
The next time, well, this was Friday.
Okay.
Did you go back Saturday or Sunday?
Best of my knowledge, I didn't go back until on Monday.
Right. Now Monday, by this time, he had been killed.
Yeah. So everybody saw that on national TV.
Everybody, you saw that, everybody saw that, or they saw the repeat of it anyway, right? Everyone was there, and everybody came back to work that Monday. And they must have talked about Ruby shooting Oswald. That must have been the talk of the place.
But I think what, I'm sure there was some talk there. What was, I think, was unusual was that people just couldn't believe that somebody that worked right there at Moments could do something like that, you know?
Right.
I think it really shocked them. You know, they didn't know that he was that type of person, you know? As I said earlier, you know, some guys, you know, like to tease, and, you know, he wasn't that type of outgoing personality, but he was a nice man to me, Lee was, because he never did anything to offend me. But I think some of them were really shocked that a guy like that could do something like that.
Right. Did you go up on the sixth floor and look over that area? Did anyone go up there? Or did you discuss the fact that Oswald probably was up there on that floor at that time?
You're not sure question. You mean this on Monday?
This was on Monday, right?
I don't think anything was so spectacular about going up there because everybody pulled orders. Went up there sooner or later.
No, but everybody pulled orders. But now this is a famous spot. This is the spot where supposedly the individual that worked in the book depository they got the president from. And the pure people being curious, and they said he had a perch up there supposedly. And people would go up there ordinarily just to see if they could see how he shot the president.
Okay, for a certain time there, they had that area sealed off.
It was still sealed off that Monday.
Yes, it was sealed off because they were still doing the investigation on that. And I know that Bill Shelley told me that I often went up on the sixth floor to, you know, just like any other order fellow to get that, and he told me that if you went up to pull an order, he said you'd over they got a certain area rope marked off. He said you don't take anything out of that area. He said don't get in there, stay out of it. And so we did so. So, you know, after they got through investigating, I'm sure everybody, you know, actually went over and looked out the window, you know. Nothing uncommon, you know, to look out the window, you know. But actually to look out, yeah, there's lots of people I'm sure did go up there and look out the window. But for me, working up there home for every day, it wasn't so spectacular to me because a lot of times the windows was raised, you know, to give a cooling effect on the old building because it was very hot. You know, especially when the sun months. It was hot and the sun months were very cold in the winter. And so there wasn't nothing, you know, where I would go around in the morning and open up the windows, you know what I mean? And you could be looking out the window while you open up the window. So there's nothing unusual about that.
But then after this, did you and Billy discuss Lee's role in this?
Oh, we talked all about it, you know, on and off, you know, but I think it was just like, you know, something that happens close around a person, they remember it more, and they may talk about it a little bit more, but, you know, it only holds for so long, and then people begin to talk about something else in the news, you know, what's going on. I'm sure everybody that worked there at that time, you know, talked to one another about it, but to what extent, I don't know, you know.
Okay, do you remember any visitors that Lee ever had at the depository lunch hour or working hours or any other time?
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
All right. Do you remember a guy that you used to work with whose name began with a G, like Green or Gibbons or something like that? Does that name sound at all familiar or anything close to that?
Say Gibbons?
Something like that. Gibbons? Green?
There was a large, he wasn't that large, he was large in a way, but he was tall. There was a tall black man that worked there. His first name was Charles, but I don't remember his last name. He pulled over there, and there's, like I say, there's several faces that I can remember.
All right. Well, let me tell you what I'm driving at. He might have been missing from the depository, too. In other words, there wasn't one guy missing. When they had a head count, there were two guys missing. Does that ring any bells with you?
No, sir, not right now it does.
Okay. Did Oswald at any time ever ask you or anybody else, as far as you know, to cash a check?
For him?
Yeah.
No, sir, he never asked me.
Did he ever ask you or anybody else, as far as you know, to borrow any money?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you get the impression with regard to his money? Did he have enough of it? Or plenty of it? Or was he short? What kind of an idea did you get about the guy?
Well, the way he dressed and the way he acted, he appeared to be just a common laborer, but you know that he didn't make a lot of money, because if you check the salary back then that we worked for, we didn't make a lot of money.
How much was it? Do you remember?
I think I could be wrong, but if you go back, I think the minimum wage at that time was $1.25 an hour. And I don't exactly remember what I started at. But I think when if I'm not mistaken, I think when I quit, I was making about $1.40 an hour.
Now, Oswald he looked like he had enough money to eat and to keep clean, or did he look hungry and dirty? Or?
I'll say this, I never seen him. He never had the appearance of being dirty, no. He just looked like a ordinary working man, you know. He didn't have you could tell by the clothes I saw him wearing, he didn't wear the flashy clothes or the real nice looking clothes. So then he was a man that didn't have the money to spend or got the names he gave me.
Yeah. Right. Now, how about him? Everybody called him Oswald, or did he have a nickname?
Probably no people call him Lee.
Just as far as you can remember. Now, how about yourself? You didn't develop a nickname, but people just called you Wes, which is really your name anyway.
Wesley.
Wesley. Was it Wes or was it Wesley?
Wesley is my name. That's what most of the people call me for. I remember there because that's the only name I went by there.
Okay, all right. Now tell me this, have you ever gone by another name? Any place, anywhere in your life, have you ever used another name other than your name? Yeah, any time.
I sometimes went by
But you've never changed your last name.
No.
You might use initials or you might not, but you and the people have always used the wrong name, and that's been it. Have you ever worked for the federal government in any capacity at all?
I've never been I was employed by the government when I was in the U.S. Army.
All right. What were you doing there? What was the job? Basically.
Okay, I had two, I had served in the U.S. Army 2 times when I was a junior. The first time I was in the Army, they trained me to be a
Yes, sir. Have we overstayed our...
No, you're okay.
All right.
You're okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
I just wondered if you're tired.
Yeah, right. If it makes any difference. That's the way I'm winding it up.
As I was saying, in the first trip in the Army, I was trained in the field as a food specialist, or coming on to most people as a cook. Even though I only worked in that area a short time, I like to cook. I still do. But cooking in the Army wasn't for me. I'm more the gourmet type. I like the gourmet type cook. I don't like to cook like the Army's food has come a long way since my first time in the Army. But I mainly worked as I belonged to the tank battalion. I worked as a tanker. And when I came back from overseas, I went and I worked as went to a BCT training facility, and there they put me back in cooking for the short amount of time that I was left in the Army. Even though I desired to work in another field, they were short on food service personnel, and they said no way, they let me get out of that field. And that's one reason why I didn't re-enlist, because I couldn't do something I was happy. I told them I would get out, and I proved my point. The second time I went into the Army, I went into the field of artillery, which is combat arms, and I worked in field artillery until I had an accident, which cost me some of my hearing. I have a hearing loss from that, and even though after that I went back and I worked in artillery for about a year and a half or so, and I got where my hearing was going so bad I couldn't hear. So they decided to take me out of that field, and they put me into a field where I'd be which is called a 71 Lima, which is a supervisor category, but it's over like typist works and so forth like that. That's the title they gave me, but I never actually worked in that field. I actually worked for a general, D3. I ran all the, what I actually did was that I ran the school program for a division. That consisted of sending people to school, screening applications, getting people into schools, checking on them daily, just like you would a child, whether they're at school or not at school, or aren't at school, and giving reports back to the general. Also helped on sending people to other posts, like the other posts, I mean other military installations for other schooling. Working, if you know anything about military, especially in the Army, I know when you work in the G-staffs, that is what the nucleus of the division of the Army is run, because they determine the different G-staffs. And I say, like you got G1, you got G2, G3, so forth, like that. They determine what the outfit's going to do. They know. They're the people that do all the planning.
In effect, were you ever involved with the military police or the investigative arm of the Army or anything along that line?
No, I indicated after I got hurt and I saw that I never was going to go back to the field I like to work artillery. I made a desire. I like to work as an investigator, but they seemed to kind of frown on that because my hearing was poor at that time. I can hear a little bit better than I did then. At that time, I couldn't hardly hear anything on my left ear. They said to be an investigator, you need to hear very well. You know, if you're working in that department, some of these people do get killed because they work plainclothes.
Now, let me ask you about this. You indicated that you had some fear of some personal violence here. I mean, you may, by virtue of, say, talking to people like us, if we weren't too discreet, we may expose you to some danger. Can you kind of expand on that just so we can understand it to the point where we can appreciate it a little bit?
Okay, sure, I don't mind that. You'll go back and you'll go back and to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And if you go back and check on all these people that thought they saw things, whether they did or didn't, they kind of met with, I don't like to use the expression, but they met with freaky accidents.
Mm-hmm.
There's no explanation for these accidents.
I can appreciate that, but what I really want to know from you is, has anybody made any threats to you as an individual? Have you received any kind of a warning or an admonishment or a threat, or call it anything you want to, because we would very much like to know that.
Not loud as the open somebody that's come out and threatened, no, but from my dealings with this subject and have been able to say it now, almost stand up to the side of you, I often get the feel that there is somebody looking for me. That's when I would say things, because it's not, they don't fear what I've told people, they fear what I haven't. They think that I'm holding something back. Maybe one of these days I'll actually tell. And I don't believe in that because I don't know anything. But yet I don't want to go on public TV or newspapers with my picture all over saying that I don't know anything, because I think that's what they're waiting for. Because they, at the time then, they don't know what I would have done.
Well, now, just basically who are we talking about? Somebody in government? Or somebody that you might have worked with a long time ago? Or some guy that you don't know that might have had something to do with the assassination and hasn't yet been caught? In other words, what kind of motivation has the guy got? That would...
I think it would be somebody that maybe, I think if it ever does happen or tries to happen, it would be very amazing who they are. Because in this, I think, which I hope it never comes down to that, but I think if it did, I think you find out it'd be somebody that has worked very closely with this, and they may have one time worked with the government or for the government, but we all know that we're all human beings. And the most that describes who a guy works for is the guy that pays the highest paycheck.
Now, I take it that your association with Mr. Garrison in New Orleans might have even supported this feeling that you had, this suspicion, because you were given a lot of protection and a lot of secret type. For instance, they didn't use your name or whatever, and I imagine this kind of, even if you hadn't been thinking along those lines before, that kind of made you think like that. I like your feelings about this. See, I don't know whether or not just because of the way you've been treated, they've kind of inadvertently planted the seed in your mind in the papers, or that you do, in fact, have something to worry about, and because you wouldn't have admit, you have a little compunction about telling us.
I believe this, that when someone approaches a crime such as that we have discussed here on these tapes, I don't think it's a one-man affair. It takes some very intelligent people, and I believe it's very friendly. There's no perfect crime. As long as there's somebody that you think knows something, you've got to show them up, because you never know when these days. Like I said earlier, it may be what you don't know you saw something, or you don't know something. One day you may figure it out. It may come to you.
All right. But just to summarize you would just let us know that, because we'll get to know you well enough so you will trust us, because we will ultimately, we want to share this particular film. You shouldn't be, as they say in the street talk, you shouldn't take the weight on this thing. It's people like us that are paid to do it, and we're down here, we're ready to do it. We will be glad to make that our problem. I'm guessing right now, admittedly, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I don't know whether you've got something in the back of your mind that you and your family are fearful of. I hope not. But if you do, I hope you think about it a while and share it with people like us, because if you don't know enough about us now, we'll so you do. But keep that in the back of your mind anyway. Now, I got the impression that we've enjoyed these very favorable circumstances long enough.
Yeah, I think certainly appreciate it.
And if there's something you want to add, just to kind of wind this thing up, or we haven't thought to ask you, or because in the absence of it, I think we would better conclude this thing. But I really wouldn't want to overlook something.
I will say this, I'll always be willing to help you any way I can.
Well, remember that works both ways. That's the part we'd like to have you take out of here. That's why you've been given cards with phone numbers, and won't cost you a nickel to call at that number any time.
So in the meantime, if you want to give us a call, we're in contact with the office 2 or 3 times a day.
All right. We started in the Mr. Hollenbeck's office, and he's, in the past few minutes, has re-entered, and we'll continue the same way. There's nobody else present other than Mr. Hollenbeck, Mr. Frazier, and the 3 of us. We're in the same room. It's just 2 minutes before 6 Dallas time. And that's it. Thank you very much. Let's see if we've made some kind of a little test here. I've got about 1:25 p.m. It's Friday afternoon, the 21st of October, 1977. All right, according to the test, everything's working all right, and now that's 1:30 p.m. Dallas time. We're in the office of Attorney David L. Hollenbeck. This place is located at 1520.
No, this is 225.
Correction.
225 East Airport
225 East Airport
Freeway.
Freeway. It's located in Dallas, Texas. Irving, Texas, I'm sorry. And the area code is 214-255-4194, 4194. And there's a metro number here of 256-2726. Present in this first floor office is Mr. Hollenbeck. Mr. Frazier is with us. Investigators Maxwell Day and myself. My name is Moriarty. I'm now going to utilize the permission that we have from Mr. Frazier and his attorney, Mr. Hollenbeck, to record this interview. I'm putting it right on the desk in front of Mr. Frazier, and at the same time we're running a dual tape. The other machine is going to make the dual tape for Mr. Frazier. We intend to give this to him, and subsequently, when we return to Washington, we're going to have the transcription copied, and we will send Mr. Frazier, either through Mr. Hollenbeck or directly to Mr. Frazier, a copy of the transcript. So he will have his own original tape, as we will have, and later on, when we manage to get the transcript materialized, we will send through the mail to Mr. Frazier, probably to Mr. Hollenbeck, for Mr. Frazier, a copy of our transcription. So it's about 1:32 now, and we would like to hear initially from Mr. Frazier. Would you give us your full name, please?
Yes, my full name is Bill Wesley Frazier.
All right, sir, and your date of birth?
My date of birth is 4 June 1944.
All right, so your present home address?
My present home address is 1309 East 15th Street, and that is here in Irving, Texas. Spell that IRVING. Zip code is 75066.
apartment or a private home?
That is private home.
All right, sir. And what's your home phone number?
My private home phone number is, and by the way, it is unlisted. It's 253-0914.
You were employed at the Graham clothing store?
Yes, sir. I'm employed at Graham's Men and Boys Wear. It's a chain of men's clothes.
And the location of the particular store that you are assigned to?
The location of this store in which I am employed is in the Irving Mall, and our address is 2440 Irving Mall, and that is also here in Irving, Texas. The zip code on it is 75062.
All right, sir. And the phone number there?
The phone number there is 256-1723.
And your particular capacity at this store?
I'm employed with Graham's in the capacity of as assistant manager.
Now, it's our understanding that you have some first-hand knowledge regarding Lee Harvey Oswald. In terms of 1963, I would like to perhaps have you give us a narrative chronologically in terms of perhaps when you first met Lee Harvey Oswald. And that might be a pretty good place to start.
Okay, actually the first place that I really met Lee Harvey Oswald was at work. And when I say work, I am referring to Texas School Book Depository. As you well know, if you go back and research through the Warren Commission reports, you'll find that Lee Harvey Oswald's wife was staying with a lady by the name of Ruth Payne, who at that time lived in Irving. Lee would come to Irving and visit his wife and play with his children. I never actually really talked to Lee until the day he came to work. I'd seen him once or twice out playing with the children in the yard, but I never had talked to the man.
I take it you lived close to him at that time?
Well, no, sir, I didn't. I didn't particularly live. I was living in the house with my sister, and she lived down the street, about half a block.
So what was that address, if you recall?
I don't recall the address exactly. It's on West 5th Street. I could go back, and check through the Warren Commission's report. I know it would be there.
What was the other, was there another street that you cut in there? Usually in the absence of a particular street number, if you could just say 5th and another street, that gives us an idea.
I don't recall that other street. I know Miss Payne lived in the middle of the block. My sister lived at, her house was at the corner of 4th and intersection, but I can't think of the street, and I would not want to say at this time.
Was it on the same side of the street?
No, sir, it was.
For instance, we know where Mrs. Payne used to live. I believe the number is 2515 5th Street. Are we talking about, we're talking about the 2500 block of 5th Street then. In that block, but across the street, on the same side of the street as Miss Payne's house?
No, sir, if you go back and check the report, you'll find that at one time my sister lived nearly directly across the street from Miss Payne.
Directly across.
But later, they moved, which they moved several times, and they later came back to that street, but they lived in a street that was on a corner lot down the street. I don't exactly remember the number, but I do know where it is. I could actually take and show you.
All right. Well, anyway, was that corner lot, was that the house you were living in at the time that Oswald and you worked at the depository building?
Yes, sir, it is. I lived there with my sister and her husband and children, and what Lee would do was Lee would ride home with me on Friday afternoon. He would come out to Irving, and he would stay there at the Payne's house with his wife and his children. to Dallas to work.
And this was a pretty consistent weekend arrangement then. You didn't ride every day. He just rode home with you on Friday night, and then he rode back in Monday morning.
Yes, sir, that's right. It was
Monday afternoon through Thursday night, and he went someplace else as far as you were concerned.
yes, sir. He told me at that time that he had a apartment over in Dallas.
Did you ever go there?
No, sir, I did not.
Did he ever tell you just where it was or anything about it, living with 6 other people or by himself or any detail at all?
No, sir, he never did go into that. All he said was that he had a place in Dallas.
Did he ever explain the kind of unusual arrangement of going one place on the weekend and another place during the week for a married man? That is? Or did it occur to you that it was a little unusual?
Well, it did occur to me, but being the type of person I am, I never doubt someone until I actually have found out that they have deceived me. And when the man told me that he had a place he stayed at over in Dallas during the week, well then I just figured that he had a reason for that, which if he wanted to tell me, he would have, which he never did and I never asked.
Well, at any rate, you two are riding to and from work on Friday evenings and on Monday mornings. Did I say that right? You two? Were there 3 or 4 or more in the car?
No, sir, there were just only 2 of us.
Just the 2 of us. When did this arrangement begin? When he first started to work, or was he there a while? Or if you recall, how did you get going on this ride arrangement?
Well, actually, we were talking about work, and I knew this primary from hearing my sister talk that his wife was staying down the street there with Miss Payne, and so I offered, he seemed to be a real nice fella, and I knew he didn't have a car, because he told me he didn't, and he said that he would be going out to Irving to see his family this weekend, and I said, well, since I only live a short distance away, would you like to ride out to Irving with me on Friday, and then I'll take you back in on Monday? And he seemed to agree to that, and we were go with that.
Was this just an offer on your part, or did he pay you? Or?
No, this was an offer on my part, kind of a generous offer. I'm kind of, well, I like to help people. I enjoy helping people that I see that maybe is less fortunate than I. Since I had a car, which wasn't a good car, but it was a car, and I went back and forth to work, and I said, why should he spend his money for bus fare out to Irving when I was going right there? Because it takes no more gasoline for 2 to ride in a car than it does 1.
That's true. If I understood you, you said he was a pretty nice fellow. Did you get to know him a little bit in the neighborhood before he took the job at the depository?
No, sir, I didn't get to know him. Like I said earlier, I never talked to him until he came to work at the Texas School Book Depository. But where I got the idea that he was a nice man was like, I know my sister's children, how, kids in the neighborhood who play one another, they thought he was a nice man. And I heard them refer to him, they said that he was a very nice man. And when working at the Texas School Book Depository, he always treated me nice. He appeared to be a very intelligent person. Even though what reports you may read about him may say otherwise, the man I know, or knew as Lee Harvey Oswald, impressed me as being a very intelligent man.
Could you give me some example of that?
Yes, I could. While working there, most of the people that worked at the Texas School Book Depository at that time, which consisted of unloading trailers and filling orders and packing school books to be shipped to anything from a kindergarten to a college level book. Most of the people worked there, and I'm talking about referring to the people that actually pull the orders, ship the books, unload the trailers. Very few of us had as it were, high school education. And often in trying to talk with some of the other employees, they thought that he talked upon a higher level, and they thought he was they didn't quite understand him. They thought that he was, some people might say that he was use the word silly or stupid, which I don't think anyone is really. And he would talk to me, and a lot of time I wouldn't understand him. And talking to me, sometimes he'd use a word in a sense that I didn't quite understand. Well, naturally, being a book talker, we have lots of dictionaries. I'd go and look it up to the word and apply it back to the sense, how it was used. And from some of the words that he used, I knew he was educated. He just wasn't an ordinary type person. But one doesn't have to go to college or have a PhD by the name to be educated. One can educate themselves.
Did it occur to you why such an educated man might be working in the depository in the capacity that he was working in?
No, sir, I didn't. I thought about it temporarily, but I look at it this way, and this is my own personal opinion. If one doesn't do for employment, if he is not happy, then he's not going to do well. Education is good, and I'm all for that. And I think a world of people that have a nice education. But sometimes people go to college and they come out with a doctor or BS or whatever you want to put behind their name, and they find out they actually really didn't learn what they thought they was, and when they went out into the job market, they may find that they was overqualified for the job that they were looking for. And I've found this often that if you talk with people out seeking employment, the reason some of them don't get it, some of the jobs they go apply for, is because the person doing the work of the personnel counselor for the company, so forth, says, well, that individual is too overqualified for this job.
Well, anyway, you didn't pursue why Oswald seemed to be possibly overqualified for being a laborer. I guess that would be the expression at the depository.
Yes, sir, you could use that.
Let me get back to the automobile facts. What kind of a car did you have at this time?
This time I drove it was an old 1954 Chevrolet.
54, so it would have been 9 years old in 63, is that about right?
Yes, sir.
54, all right. Was this a station wagon or a convertible? If you recall, the body style.
Okay, what it was a four-door sedan.
Four-door sedan. You remember the color?
Yes, sir. It was black.
All black, one color.
Yes, sir, it was.
All right. The 54 Chevrolet sedan. And I wouldn't presume you remember the tag number, but I guess you had Texas tags on. Would that be...
Yes, sir, I did have Texas tag.
If you know the number, I'll ask you.
No, sir, I can't recall the number of the car.
All right. Did Oswald ever say with you with the driving chores, or did you drive all the time?
I drove the car all the time because from the questions he asked me one day about driving, I noticed he watched me driving the car one day, and he was asking me about why I just had one pedal. It was automatic. And I told him that with an automatic transmission, you don't shift gears. All the time you change gears, like from going from park to drive, or from park to reverse, or going from drive to park, whichever combination you want to use.
Let's see, if memory serves me, Chevrolet, that was the 4th year for the automatic transmission, so it was relatively new. I mean, seems to me 1950 was the first year. I think that's right. Well, anyway, he wasn't too familiar with the advent of automatic transmission. But did he say whether or not he could drive, or an ordinary, say, what do they call a stick shift now?
Yes, sir, standard, which I prefer to call it. I asked him, could he drive a car, and I don't remember what his answer was. But I know one time he did tell me he was studying the Texas Department of Public Safety's driving rules to apply for a driving license. So from therefore, I took that he could drive a car. And there is some people in today's society that cannot drive a car. They never tried, they never even applied for a driving license.
So your impression was that he was not a licensed driver. He needed a license, but he didn't know whether or not he could drive. But he was not not familiar enough with the traffic regulations anyway to take the test. Is that about it?
That's what he told me.
All right. So you never would have occasions alone in your car or see him drive anybody else's car in the neighborhood or something on that order?
No, sir. I never saw the man that we're referring to as Mr. Oswald. I have never seen him drive a car at all.
Oh, perhaps we should clarify that now. The man that we're referring to is the man who received the television notoriety from November 22nd through the 24th. I'm sure you saw him on television, saw his name, his picture in the paper. This is the same man we're talking about. A white man, about 24 years old, rather small in stature, that was ultimately, shot by Mr. Jack Ruby on television. We are talking about that same person.
Yes, he is known to the, how would you say, to the public as Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
The man that has been accused of assassinating, as it were. He is the man that has been labeled the assassin of John F. Kennedy.
Right. So there's no question about we're talking about the same person. With regard to your duties at the depository, what was your particular job?
Okay, the duties I performed while working for the Texas School Book Depository was that I was an order filler. Order filler, what he does, he actually takes the orders after they're printed on the company form and goes to the certain area where you have the books stored. And it's very simple. You know how many books are in a carton, and they call for so many copies. And you take and you fill the order. The orders may have only one textbook on it, or they could have several. It depended on the independent school district that it's coming from. The larger independent school districts, such as Houston and so forth like that, you ship by truck loads or boxcar loads because their orders are so large. But for the small ones, you may ship them by freight. When I say by freight, I mean by like the freight companies like East Texas, Central, Red Ball, and so forth.
So I take it you take this order, and then you go upstairs or wherever the storage area is, draw the particular books that appear on the order, and then take the freight elevator downstairs and go out toward the platform, is that it? Or give them to a checker? Or I'm not that familiar with it.
Okay, what we did, we had a signed area there that we had set aside that when you finished filling the order, that you would take and put it in this assigned area, and then a checker would come along and double check what you pulled. And the reason they did this because simply one could make a mistake, but not reading the order correctly or by miscounting.
All right. Now, when did you start working at the depository? So,
I started working at the Texas School Book Depository, as I remember, in it was a late summer of '63.
can you tell me how you got the job?
How I got the job was through an employment agency.
Do you remember which one?
No, sir, I do not.
Let me rephrase that. The government has one. I think they call it the Texas State Employment Agency.
The one that the state has, sir, is known as Texas Employment Commission.
All right.
Okay. No, sir, it wasn't. No, it was from a private employment agency, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and they have all over the country. It was just one of the private owned employment agencies.
Something like Manpower. Well, that's the only name I can think of right now, but I know the kind of agency you mean. How many people, in terms of what you said, the early summer of '63?
No, sir, I said the late summer.
Late summer '63. How many people did you come to know by the time you were there a few weeks or a few months?
I
How long do you have to work at the depository before you know about everybody that works there?
Well, that's really simple. At that time, Texas School Depository had two buildings. They had the building in which I worked, and then they had the building that was further down the street. It's known as where they stored a lot of the state editions. And that's hard to explain unless you actually know what I'm referring to in the textbook industry. Normally the two buildings would have been together, but the business grew, and I guess, I don't like to use the word assumption, they needed the extra space and they ran the other building, which was a little bit farther away. But
We've been using the address of 411 Elm Street, I believe, for the depository. Are you talking about further down Elm Street on the same, or are we talking about the side street Houston, further back out away? It seems to me there's railroad tracks over there.
yes, that's what I'm talking about. It's not further on Elm Street. The other building sits further down Houston Street. It's several blocks down there toward City Block.
Toward the rear of the building. For instance, the depository front door faces the Dewey Plaza. So we're talking in the rear of the depository, a few blocks to the rear.
Yes, that's correct. It's actually the other building is located on, you have the railroad tracks, which is a shipping yard. Runs through there, and the railroad tracks run right up beside the building there on Elm, and then they run all the way down to the other building down. There's actually a yard there where it's nothing uncommon there to see, the cars there and the engines, switching from track to track.
Is that building still standing today?
Yes, both buildings are still there.
Would you have normally worked in the other building as well as 411 Elm?
I worked in the other building our day, so only because we had a large shipment, and the building which I was working with, we didn't have that heavy a load at that time. But I went and worked down there, and I didn't care to work down there in that building. I started under another supervisor, and I kind of learned to like him and appreciate him, and I told him after going down and working there, or whatever it was, that he asked me to go down and help him out. I told him that I appreciate he wouldn't send me down there anymore because I didn't like to work down there.
What's the name of the supervisor that you appreciate or liked?
His name is Bill Shelley.
Bill Shelley. Right? How about other names that you might recall of people that worked there? Either worked with you or you worked for him?
Mr. Chili was the man. He was over Bill Shelley. And another co-worker I worked with there was named Billy Lovelady. See, there was a young black man worked there. We called him Junior. I can't recall his full name. It's kind of bad. We called him Junior.
Would you know it if you heard it? Do you think?
I might. I wouldn't want to be for sure, or say for sure, but I would know him.
Earl John?
John, J-A-R-M-A-N. The young boy.
John.
Junior. The other name,
Norman? James Turner.
Yes, I remember that name.
James Turner.
Yes.
Is that who you're talking about, Junior?
Yes, I'm not mistaken. That's the man they call Junior. We call Junior. I called him by his nickname so much that since the years have passed, it's hard for me to remember the man's actual name.
Well, I think that's probably what prevails. When guys work together like that, they'll use nicknames. And you remember a nickname long after you've forgotten his surname, if you ever knew. All right, any other names? Incidentally, nicknames are all right. That reminds me of
There was
something.
a man that also worked there. His name was Jack. He was a
supervisor, or did he work with the...
No, he was just a co-worker like us. He filled orders. He's a large man. He said, well, 240, 50 pounds.
How old did he appear to be at the time?
Oh, Jack was supposed to be in his early 40s. I think he lived with his mother and father. Bill Shelley, I know, can tell you his name. Because Jack was working there when I came there.
Anything else you can remember about Jack? What kind of a car he drove to and from work?
Never actually seen Jack drive a car.
Was he friendly with anybody other than Bill Shelley? I mean, in particular.
Was this man they called Jack?
Jack, right.
Yes, Jack was friendly with all the people. He was real nice. He had a real nice personality. He teased and joked everyone. Not sure which most heavyset people do. They have a real nice sense of humor. And they get along usually well with everyone. There was an old black man worked there. He mostly did packing. And he cleaned up some offices. I don't recall his name. We called him Piper. I'm not sure of his first name. It may be Eddie, but I wouldn't want to say for sure.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other names come to you? Any other guys you can think of?
I can see several faces, but I just can't recall their names. I know them for some.
You may have had occasion to read in the volumes about the different witnesses that were questioned. Quite a few of the names came up in the various reports. That would kind of jog your memory a little bit.
Well, I'll be honest with you.
Just take a minute here. It's about 2 o'clock. We'll take a short break here. Okay, it's 7 minutes past 2. We've had about a 7-minute break.
I was wondering, no, this is Bill Potter's office, and that's why I asked you to stay. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Hornbeck has a 2 o'clock appointment, and he may have to leave the room. We'll so indicate if he does. But in the meantime, we'll get back into Mr. Frazier's narrative.
Let's see, I believe we were talking, all I can think of is pickup truck. God help me. We were talking about the last thing was, I can't think of the people in the hospital. Nicknames. We talked about a man by the name of Piper, who was an old black fellow. At the time, he was an old black man. Maybe he's a lot older now, or maybe he isn't. And then we went from Piper to Jack. Right, okay. And Jack was the kind of the heavy-set white man, maybe in his 40s, and an outgoing guy by nature. Anybody else? We talked about Billy Lovelady. Who was the man's name again with an S? He was your supervisor, Shelley?
Yes, Bill Shelley.
Is Bill Shelley still around? Is he still with the depository, if you know?
Bill Shelley is no longer employed by Texas School Book Depository. At that time, one of the...
Mr. Hornbeck's going to have to excuse himself temporarily. He has another client, and he's going to leave the room. Okay, thank you, sir. All right. So we'll just go right on.
With regard to Mr. Shelley, he's not with the depository anymore, but is he still in the Dallas area?
Yes, as far as I know he is. It's been several years since I talked with Bill. But what I was attempting to say before I made the notation that Mr. Hornbeck was going to leave the room was that at that time we had a publisher that was in Texas School Book, in other words, that we handled their publications. It was Scott Sportman. They later pulled out and built a building all their own. And they talked to Bill Shelley, and later Bill Shelley went and managed their warehouse farther, which is also located here in Dallas.
I guess he may still be with him then. There's a possibility.
Yes, sir, as far as I know he is. I know the last time I talked with Bill, I think, matter of fact, the last time I saw him, he was at the Scotch Foreman warehouse because I went by to see him.
All right. What about, Lovelady? How about Lovelady? Have you been in touch with him?
Yes, I talked to Billy Lovelady only just a few weeks ago on the telephone. Billy Lovelady is employed by Vincent Supply Company. They deal in pipe and pipe fittings, flanges, elbows, so forth.
Is that a Dallas firm?
They have a plant here in Dallas, just out on Harry Hines of Walnut Hill. Billy was working there for Vincent. Billy is now working in Denver. They opened a new plant there. Excuse my expression, not plant, but they opened a, how would you say,
A branch office or subsidiary or something?
I know Vincent itself, his home office comes out of Oklahoma. They're Oklahoma-based firm. And they opened the office in Denver. And Billy is up there, I believe his title is warehouse manager. I'm not for sure.
That sounds pretty good.
So I haven't talked to him actually in person. As I said, it's not to be repetitious. The only contact I've had with Billy in the last several years was by telephone, and that was only several weeks ago.
I take it he called you, or you called him?
Well, the way that happened was that I was talking with a salesman that still works for Vincent, and he asked me, he says, he made the comment to this nature or something very similar. Guess who just walked in my office? And I said, something like this, well, who? He said, you remember Billy Lovelady? I said, yes. And he said, well, he's here. And I said, he said, would you like to talk to him? And I said, I sure would. And I chatted with him a few minutes on the phone. He'd taken a few days off, and he was down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area visiting some friends, and both our itineraries at the time was pretty packed. And I planned on actually seeing and talking with Billy, and we talked about some of the old times that we, like where we'd worked together, and but I had to work that night, and I didn't get to go over to where Billy said he was going to be and talk to him.
Did you get his address in Denver? Or did you maybe write him or anything like that?
No, sir, I didn't. Billy has a sister who lives here in Irving, and also I know the salesman out there very well. You know, if I happen to really need to get in touch with Billy, I could call out there and get the number of the plant and the address if I had to. So that's the reason, one reason I didn't press on about getting it over the phone.
Okay, very good. Somebody else, is there anybody else we can think of while we're talking about the old employees of those depositories? How about people in the office? Did you get to know anybody in the office? The administrative part of it, or maybe the secretary, or, well, for instance, how did you eat lunch? Did you ever have lunch with a particular group of people, or a certain, maybe people that worked, say, nearby in another store, in another building? Was there a local cafeteria around there, a restaurant that appealed to most people?
Okay, actually what most people did there, they either did one of two things. They either brown bag for lunch, or they bought off a catering truck, which was a catering truck come around in the morning for break time. And some of the guys that maybe they would get up and maybe they didn't have enough to make a lunch or what they wanted, maybe they'd say, well, I'll just take the truck. When they referred to that, talking about a come around in the morning, I don't remember the time, but it was just a catering truck, and they'd buy the stuff off their lunch off there.
That seems to jog my memory a little bit in terms of the truck probably had hot sandwiches, specifically hot chicken. I remember some mention of chicken bars.
Yes, I think I know what you're referring to. Yes, most of your catering trucks that operate here and around Dallas, they do have hot sandwiches.
Right.
They have hot forth in the morning for your breaks. And, but you asked me earlier where I eat my lunch and who I eat my lunch with. And, I eat my lunch with different people. I got along well. I think that everyone worked there. We had a lunchroom up on the second floor. I did, however, go up and eat lunch up there a few times. But most of the time I eat my lunch down on the first floor. Or sometimes I would go down into the basement and sit down and eat my lunch close to the stairway there. But it was nice and quiet, and it was nice and cool in the summertime, and the heat was nice and cool. That was the coolest part of the warehouse, was the basement. And I filled orders out there from time to time, and I knew that the basement was nice and cool.
Let me see, I was wondering, did you ever go out of the building to eat? In other words, did you ever make any friends that worked in nearby places? I know there are several buildings in that area.
Oh, yes, sir. There's quite a few buildings that were right around closer. No, sir, I never did go out and eat with someone from another building that worked close by. I didn't know that many people, and I was fairly new to Dallas myself, and so I'd just sit down and eat my lunch, and I'd relax. Sometimes I'd even lay down and take a nap.
All right. How about Oswald? Did he eat lunch about the same way you did, brown bagging it, or do you know if he went out and eat outside, or whatever?
Well, sometime Lee would, best of my memory, I know sometimes he would take his lunch, or you'd see him bring a lunch. Also down on the first floor, which I didn't mention, there was a little room off to the side, close to the, wasn't too far from the men's restroom. They had a little room there. It was a little card room. Some of the fellows played cards at lunch and ate their sandwiches in there. And you could see Lee, that he could go around with it. He didn't hang around with anybody in particular. He was, he tried to get along with everybody.
Did he utilize the truck, or was he a brown bagger?
Well, I won't say that he ever bought anything off the truck. But I do know I have seen him take his lunch. But where he took his lunch every day, I can't say so. Be exact.
And you don't know whether or not he went out to eat, perhaps with some other people in another building or whatever?
No, sir, I don't. I don't know that. Because at lunchtime, like I say, you might find some guys be in the room there playing cards and eating their sandwiches, or some sitting out on the dock, or, some might have to go run an errand during lunch hour,
Right.
We had a standard lunch hour, and so everybody took their lunch at the same time.
What time was it?
If I remember correctly, it was right around 12.
How long was the lunch hour did they have?
I really don't remember exactly how many minutes it was. I know we had a break in the morning, break in the afternoon.
Did they punch out for lunch, or you just stopped working and had lunch and come back at a certain time?
I don't know if I sure that
Had punch clock at all?
Yeah, how about a time clock involved in it anyway, in the morning or at night?
Okay, what I was going to say to that, in reference to that, I don't think we have a time clock. Not the best of my remember that we actually have a time card. Now, I have worked several jobs since then where I had to punch time clock. But I can't, I wouldn't want to say for sure whether we did or we may not have a time clock, because I just don't remember.
But at lunchtime, for some way, not everybody just stopped working at that time. Now, if you were in another part of the building, they didn't have a whistle or anything to notify you lunchtime, did they?
Well, most everybody, had a watch.
They watched it.
And they knew what time, it was, or someone would say, be going down one of the elevators and be working on the floor, and they'd say lunchtime.
All right.
Did Lee have a watch?
That, I couldn't remember. I wouldn't want to say he did or he didn't. I just simply don't know.
I noticed you referred to him as Lee, which was his first name. Is that, what did he call you?
At that time, when I worked at the school book depository, I went to the name of Wesley. That's what everybody called me around.
I was wondering, maybe you might have had a nickname or something.
No, sir. I didn't have any names when I worked there. Like to use to show to everybody. One of the guys that like to tease a lot of people there, I mentioned Frazier, was Billy Lovelady. He's a big kidder, and he's a real nice fellow. He has a nice outgoing personality. Now, when I did work with Lee, I think Lee respected me because when I work, I'm very sales-minded. I try to do the best job I can. And I know sometimes I'll fill in orders if he didn't understand something. Sometimes if he couldn't find a supervisor, he'd come find me and ask me, was this the correct book? Because I remember we had a series called Think and Do's. They were little workbooks for elementary grade children. And it was very similar. It was kind of a series. I don't know when you went to school, you might, I know when I was school it was Sally, Spot, and Dick and Jane. Well, this was on the same series, little Think and Do. And they was the big name on that little pamphlet was Think and Do's, but they was a little bit different series is what I'm trying to explain myself. And according to the way they was built on there, you had to actually know the series very well to be able to get the right text that was being called for. And I know that I filled a lot of those because Bill said I did very good. I didn't put a lot of the wrong books. And,
That's interesting because I think that he was about what? That's interesting because I think that he was about what, 5 years older than you were at the time, if I've got it figured right. You were how old then when you were working as a depositor?
I was 19.
About 19, and we know he was 24.
Mm-hmm.
But he would still seek you out, and in other words, he valued your judgment on the procedures down there.
Yes, sir, evidently did, because I always treated him nice. I never acted as, when he said something I didn't understand, like I said previously, I could use a word that I didn't know the definition of. I never made fun of him for talking maybe over my head,
Did anyone sort of abuse him or anything that you know of?
Oh, some of the guys kind of teased him, because I think sometimes they were like me, he would say something and they didn't actually understand, but yet they didn't seem to have enough initiative to go and seek out the word in the dictionary and see how it was used in some kind of understanding. But,
When they reacted that way, to more or less criticize him, which probably just covered up the fact that they didn't know what he was talking about, but how did he act when they joked at him, criticized him, made fun of him?
he just used to look at him as seeing this person being ignorant.
But he didn't respond with any violence or get upset?
No, he didn't.
Did he have trouble with anybody, on a serious vein?
No, sir, he didn't have trouble. Most all the guys around there teased one another. Now, I can say one thing about Lee. Lee was always very nice to me as far as working relationship, talking to me and so forth like that. He didn't talk, however, a lot to anyone.
How would you rate him as a worker, as an order filler? Was he a good one? Or was he was he inclined to make mistakes? Was he slow to catch on, or did he catch on fast on the job? Or, in terms of the guys that worked there, was he one of the better workers, or was he a little under par? Just from your own judgment.
Okay, this I would say, and I think I'll sum it up best. The series that I mentioned earlier, the Think and Do, it's one of the hardest little series to fill. And I know when I went there, Bill Sweeney seemed to work a lot with me because I've always been this way. I always will be this way. I want to learn. I like to learn. I try to learn one new thing every day. And he saw that I took a great interest in my work, and he said, and he worked with me on these Think and Do series. But he said there's a lot of money being wasted in freight. Books were being pulled and shipped, and it was the wrong series, so therefore they'd have to pay the return freight on it. Make a long story short, I know Bill Shelley asked me to help him with those sometimes the orders would be so great, one man maybe couldn't pull them all. You have to have some help. And I know one day he was helping me fill these. And I told him, I said, take my honor that he lets you fill these. Because they're very difficult to fill. And I said, he wouldn't even let you attempt to fill them if he didn't think you could do the job. And by working with him, I know I only showed him the series once. And he listened very closely to what I had to say. And I showed him the little, the little tricks, how to tell one series from the next, even though the colors were very similar on the book. And I would go back to reference on the order. And I would show him back and forth. And he learned very quickly. If I remember correctly, I showed him one good time, and I never had to show him again. So therefore, that to me, he impressed me as being intelligent. Not only sometimes the way he would talk, but I watched him, how he caught on to fill in some of the books. Being an order filler for a large textbook, for my take the school books, there's many, many titles that's used in the, from, like I said, from kindergarten to the college level. And one just can't walk in there and pick up a order and go fill it. You first have to know where the order is and the quantities and so forth. And it's not it's an ordinary layman's job, but you really be surprised how many people can't do it very well.
But in short, it takes some degree of intelligence to even qualify, and you have to be probably above average to do it well.
I think you have to have a little bit above interest and a little bit maybe above the average intelligence to be a good order filler. You can be an order filler, but really you're a good one now. It's something different.
All right, and how long did you stay in the book depository after the November 22nd?
I worked there until up to, I worked there to the end of July of 65.
Now let's talk about, as much as you can remember, the November 22nd part from student, all right? One thing I'd like to ask you.
In that book depository, I got the impression that everybody was assigned a certain area or certain type of books. Is that correct?
Well, that's partially true and not exactly another phrase of speaking. We had boxes that were set on the table. And in those boxes were some like Scott's Foreman, other Wood Gregg, and according to what the publishers were. And some of the publications was put on different floors, and some of the order fillers were more familiar with certain publishers. So therefore, they pulled all the orders that came into that box. And if they got theirs through, and they knew another publisher, well, maybe they might come over and say, well, you're being hit pretty heavy today as far as orders, can I give you a hand? And they would take some out of your box. And they would take your box. Yeah, so well, we didn't have a name on it, but they had the publisher's name on it. Like I said, Scott.
And you order to fill, and but you weren't assigned any specific area in that depository. You go all over the book.
Right. When I worked there, I filled orders from the basement.
What about Lee?
Lee did likewise. He filled orders, different types of orders.
All over the book?
Yes.
It wouldn't be unusual for you to see Lee in any part of the building.
No, sir. You might see him down in the basement, put in the order, say at 8:30, be down in the basement, getting some textbooks, and maybe at 9:15 he might be up on the 12th floor, doing another order up there, and vice versa. You go up and down the old elevator shaft, Scott Franklin.
How about the 7th floor? Do you have much occasion to go up there?
Okay, the old 7th floor, if you've ever been there, it was, what we had stored on that was some textbooks that didn't sell very well. They were real slow movers, so we put them up there. And I know that when I went up there when I started going up there pulling orders off the 7th floor, sometimes I would be there longer than I normally would because I'd have to hunt first for the textbook. Maybe we didn't have many of that series up there. And I'd have to look and make sure, and sometimes I'd have to take one down, and then I'd go and seek Bill Shelley to actually see if that was the correct book.
In any event, you were less familiar with that stuff up there because you didn't get many calls for it. Yes, that's how they put it out of the way. Would that apply as we come down to the sixth floor? Would that be reasonably unique?
No, sir. The sixth floor there, it's not moved well on that, just like on the fifth floor.
So from the sixth floor down to the basement, that's pretty much common running area. The only thing is the seventh floor would be the exception.
Right, the seventh floor was where the old stock that didn't move very well, or the publications that didn't, if you're familiar, not to be repetition, or be going to repetition, there's a certain time of year that all the textbook companies, they get together and they sell their textbooks to the schools, and the schools decide what textbooks they're going to buy into the state textbook program. And if you want to do well in the textbook industry, you have to make that list.
As a filler, if you took an order and you went to fill this order and you made an error, you had to, well, first of all, you fulfilled the order, you brought it to a checker, and you made an error. Were you obligated to take this book back that you made the error with, or piles of books, back to where you got it from and get the correct books?
Yes, sometimes, everyone has made a mistake one time or another. The checker would call your attention to it, say if you misread the order, said this is not the right series, or maybe you were short one or two books, whatever, you have to go back and you either have to take if the books were not correct, you have to take those back, put those back and get the correct ones if they have.
Where does this checking take place?
The checking took place down on the first floor there.
Were you required to have any order filler? Was he required to have any special equipment to use?
No, the only thing order filler really needed was pencil. Now, he could have a clipboard. He didn't have to have a clipboard because you could put the orders in your pocket. And yes, now if you were filling freight orders, which you could, after you fill orders for a while, you could look at an order and you could tell approximately how many cases that were going to be. And you know where to take a dollar or to take one of the lifts where you go up and pick up a whole skid. You know. So,
Anything else? I take this
I have sort of recapping a lot of things that we've talked about, because I see the tape is going to pop in.
let's take a look at the tape here.
How much tape you got on the tape? You want to start
Not much. Let's take a break. It's 3:33. It's 2:33. We'll take a break here. Change the tape. The tape's been read. We've got a few more minutes left, so we might as well use it. Tony, it's 2:34 now, so we can just pick up where we left off. Clarence, you had a couple questions.
Yeah. Well, as we were talking before about Oswald living and you living in the neighborhood where he lived, I sort of got the impression that you knew him before he got the job as a book deposit.
no, sir, I actually really didn't know him. I had, as I said previously, I had seen him out in the yard a couple of times playing with some of the children in the neighborhood. But I don't really consider that knowing a person, but just seeing him by eyesight.
Okay. But you did know of his existence before he went to work there, is what I'm getting at.
Yes, I learned of this from my sister because some of the women in the neighborhood, they would get together and they would drink coffee. And I had learned of him being there, with his wife and family there from not only my sister, but from my sister's little girls that play with the kids there in the neighborhood.
Now, several times when you were talking, you said something about come to see his wife and his kids. Do they have more than one kid?
If I remember at that time, he had 2 children.
Okay. How many cars does Miss Payne have, if you know?
I really don't know how many cars they own, sir.
Do you know Mrs. Payne? Mr. Payne, I'm sorry.
No, I do not know Mr. Payne.
Have you ever seen Oswald drive a car?
No, sir, I
When you rode into work with him, I mean, when you brought him home from work and rode back and forth, what are some of the things you talked about?
Okay, this is what we kind of talked about. As I had said previous, Lee wasn't a very big talker. He was the type of person that would talk to you and answer you, but he wasn't a person that had what I call a real outgoing personality. And that meant, that he wouldn't come up to you and start talking to you or start up a conversation with you. The things we talked about, sometimes we talked about the traffic, which we got caught in the traffic jams a lot of times at that time of the evening when we got off. We talked, I seemed to get the best response out of him about his children, because I know he really loved them, but the way he used to refer to them, that he enjoyed playing with them. He looked like he really looked forward to going out to see them.
How many kids do you think, I mean, you always said you sort of had two, but what were the girls or boys? Did you ever talk about that?
I asked him what we had girls or boys, and he told me, but I said that was not.
Pick up where we left off. We're still in the office, and the lawyer is not present.
Side 2.
Side 2.
Let's see, Clarence was asking him something?
Yes. Did you, of your own personal knowledge, know if Oswald had any trouble with his wife? Did he ever talk about it, or any way you had any knowledge of it?
No, sir, I did not. He never mentioned anything to me that if they had any family problems.
All right. How about the neighbors? Gossip type things.
Not to my knowledge. Now, like I said, I only lived there with my sister, and I was gone during the day, and I actually didn't know a lot of the people that lived there in the neighborhood.
I heard you talk about the kids in the neighborhood having a high opinion of Oswald as being a nice fellow and so forth. Did you ever know a kid about 14 years old, boy, white male, travel with Oswald?
No, sir, I never seen anyone of that description with him.
When you would go to work normally on a normal day at the book depository, where would you usually park your car?
We had a parking lot that was down, as I mentioned earlier. We had another building that was several blocks away. Well, we had an employee parking lot there, and we parked inside that parking lot, which was right beside the building there.
Okay, now, there were a lot of implications and a lot of talk and things about curtain rods. Oswald taking the curtain rods to work with him, and they seem to have put some implication that he took a weapon or something of that nature, or the rifle that he used to work with him on the day that he went there. I know that some of the testimonies and things that I've read has pointed in that direction, and that's probably a very delicate part of this investigation as far as you were concerned. Can you tell me about those curtain rods and how they got in the car in the morning that you took Oswald to work and all of that? Can you just start on the 22nd of
About maybe you better try on the 21st.
well, let's start on the 21st.
I'll tell you, before we get into that particular itinerary, if we got any more miscellaneous questions. Do you have any more?
I don't have miscellaneous questions, but I got some more questions.
All right.
Okay.
We just want to keep the thing in
Okay, now you parked way down the other end, down the other yard down, when you left your car there. Your car stayed there during the daytime.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Did you lock it up?
Yes, sir, I did.
Do you usually lock your car?
Yes, sir, I do.
Are you in the service, reserve, or Air Force, or something like that?
No, sir, not at the time being.
Were you in the reserve?
Would you clarify that at what time? Well, you mean why was I in the reserves when I was working at Texas School Book Depository? Is that what you're referring to?
Not necessarily, but Well, you were kind of young then, you were about 19.
Yes.
You weren't in service then.
No, sir, I was not.
All right. How about after you left there and you went into service for a while then?
Okay, sir. I said previous that I worked there at Texas School Books up to the end of July of 1965. I then went into the U.S. Army. I was drafted. I went in for 2 years. I did my time. I came out of active duty, and if you are familiar with the military obligation, you owe this country 6 years. And you can fill it in a various of forms. You can either do 2 years active, on duty. You can do 2 years active reserve and 2 years inactive reserve. Or you can take and bring it up to any combination that works out to 6 years. What I did at the time, being I was young, I didn't have any hopes of making the military my career. So I did my 2 years, and I got out of the Army, and I resumed work back like I had before, but I did not go back to Texas School Book Depository.
Okay. Now, he did ask you, I just got a few questions. I'm going to run through them as fast as I can. You don't have to elaborate on them. Just some questions that as we were talking came up. And it seems that they got some other questions they want to ask. You can get into that. But you said that you knew Jarman, right?
Junior,
Yes.
as we called it.
You called Jarman Junior?
Yes.
Okay. As you were talking before, you talked about how you got the job. You said something about an employment agency. And I might have missed it. Can you remember what that agency was?
No, sir. I can't remember the name of that agency.
Do you know how Oswald got his job?
Well, he came in and he applied for the job, but as I said earlier, some of the women there in the neighborhood, they used to get together and they'd have coffee and so forth in the morning, and my sister knew that I had been working a lot of overtime. And so she asked me, she says, do you need any more help down there? And I said, well, I don't know. I said, you have to check with have to come down and check with Bill Shelley or Mr. Trudy. And I said, they would know whether, they were going to hire anybody else. And I didn't. And so through these morning coffees or get-togethers, there are some of the women in there. I guess Miss Payne must have mentioned something to Marina, who had in return mentioned something to Lee, and he came down and applied for the job. But actually, how he got the job, I know he came in and applied for it, but whether he was sent by an employment agency, I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Then in term, you might say that, did anybody ever ask you about him as a reference or anything? Did he put you down as a reference?
No, sir, not that I know of. When he first came there and applied for the job, they asked me did I know him, and I told Bill Shelley no, I did not know him personally. I knew that his family was living with another family down the street. As far as actually knowing the man, I did not.
All right. Would it be safe to say that then in that aspect that you were instrumental in helping him get a job?
Well, I wouldn't want to say I helped him get a job. The man asked me a question about him, and I told him, to the best of my knowledge, I didn't know anything about the man. Only, from what I told you previously about seeing him a couple of times out in the yard playing with some children.
Well, we talked about the other building being down the street. Oswald have occasions to go down there at times.
I don't know where Bill ever sent Lee down to the other building to work or not. I couldn't say.
Who was his immediate supervisor? Right over top Oswald.
The supervisor that was over Lee was the same supervisor as I had, was Bill Shelley.
How about identifying people that work actually in the depository. Some of them you can't remember their names. Do you think if I were able to produce a photograph of people around and in that building, that you could pick out the ones that actually worked there?
I wouldn't say I could pick out everyone, but I could pick out the people that I knew.
Right.
That I had come in contact and I knew that worked there in the depository in the capacity of either as a co-worker of mine or worked for one of the publishing companies which had offices up on like the second, third, and fourth floors. You know.
Right. Have you seen any let's say after the 22nd, since things have died down, have you seen any photographs of Dealey Plaza, depository, or anything connected with the assassination that did not surface in the newspapers during the time all this thing was fitting? Have you seen maybe somebody's friend or somebody come up with a picture or something?
No, sir, I haven't. I will say this, I do read and look at all the articles that are published in the papers, and I listen to the news. As far as actually discussing it with someone, I do not.
Okay. Did Billy Lovelady say anything about any new pictures of Frazier he come up against when you talked to him briefly?
No, sir, we didn't even bring the subject up. We were just mainly, we talked about, we was kind of, excuse the expression, we were just tickled we talked to one another because we hadn't talked to one another in several years.
Well, there were some questions I wanted to ask you about the day of the assassination, but apparently they're going to get into that. What time did this, usually on a normal day, what time did this truck, the catering truck that came by, what time did it usually hit around the building? Was it on noon time, or was that a means of knowing it was lunchtime, or did it have just no special time to come up there?
Okay, if you check with the catering trucks and the catering service here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I think you'll find that the drivers that work for these catering services, they more or less have kind of routes, and they learn the break times of the companies and so forth, and they make it up on their own to be there at the proper break time, so that therefore they can sell their merchandise.
Okay. What time is this truck usually?
I wouldn't want to say for sure, but it seemed like it was somewhere around between 9:30 and 10 o'clock.
If you know, can you tell me where Lee usually ate his lunch?
Like I said previously, he didn't have any special place to eat his lunch. You might see him sitting with the fellows in the card room one day, and the next day he may be sitting out on the dock eating his lunch. He just didn't have any certain place.
How did Billy Lovelady and Lee get along? Your opinion on it?
I think they got along well. As I said earlier, Billy teased everybody. Billy is the type of guy that has an outgoing personality, and he loves to tease people. He loves to laugh, and he has, like I said, a very good outgoing sense of humor, and creates a lot of laughter.
How did Jarman and Oswald get along?
As far as I know, they got along very well.
There's one other fellow I wanted to ask about, but what's his name? A little more friendly.
Shields.
Ed Shields.
Shields was, I couldn't remember Shields' name, first name. All I knew about was Shields. Shields worked down at the building right close to the parking lot where I parked my car. Now, Shields worked primarily in that building all the time. Every now and then, if he might come up to our building, maybe to work overtime. He was going to be working overtime up there, say like unloading a truck or trying to fill some orders. Shields would come up and give us a hand. Primarily, like I worked in the building there on Elm Street. Shields worked down in the other building. We had kind of two crews, what it amounts to. We had two crews. One crew worked down there, one crew worked up here, where I was working.
Did he get along with Oswald? Did he know Oswald?
I wouldn't want to say where Shields knew him or not, but Shields was always, he had a very outgoing personality, and I know how to describe several of these people as being that way, but we got along very well. I think everybody worked there. We all kidded one another, teased one another, just like normally a group of men does on a job where you have several, or you have a shift of people working together. It's more like a big happy family. We talked about, things that most men talk about, talk about the sports or whatever, time of year is what's going on,
Okay, can you tell me, Billy Lovelady continued to work there after the assassination?
Yes, he did.
What time? Did you leave first or he left first?
I left first because I was drafted into the military.
Okay. Let's say a day or two, Monday or Tuesday after Oswald's death, after getting shot and so forth. Did Billy Lovelady discuss the assassination, Oswald, the fact that you drove to work with him? Did you get into a conversation with him about it?
Oh, I would say this, that after this happened, as I said previously, I think it was a pretty close-knit group of people working together. Sure, we talked about it off and on, but, just like anyone, like I think you would talk with one of your co-workers here. It was really a surprise to me, that this thing happened, because I never had been close to anything like this before, and coming from a small country town into the city and working in the city, then you work somewhere where this happens, and you have the whole nation looking at this certain city. You might say, and I think it'd be accurate, that I was very, what I want to say is, it just wasn't something common, I was just a victim of circumstance. It was just there, and I think it could happen to anybody in any city,
Without getting into the day of the assassination and all that, without going into it too deeply, I don't want to touch on what they want to talk about, but what was the general feeling of the people in that building about Oswald in connection with the assassination? Did they feel he did it? Did they feel he not did it? Just as a general scrape off the top, what was their feeling in reference to it?
Well, I can't speak for everyone. I can only primarily speak for myself. Like I tried to say there just previously, I don't know exactly how to put it, but I don't know how to put it in words, but I just couldn't believe that it had actually happened.
Okay, all right. Did you, as long as you rode with Oswald and everything, did you ever hear him say anything about going to Mexico?
No, sir, I never did. He never discussed any trips with me at all. As I said previously, Lee wasn't a big talker.
Okay. All right, now I just got a couple of other questions I'd just like to touch on very briefly. Did you actually give a written statement to anybody? Can you tell me, I'm speaking in, what I have in mind is the FBI, the CIA, the Dallas police, or any other investigative unit, did you give any actual statements to them? I mean, a statement where they took the statement and you signed it.
I know all during this time, I know like when I went for the Warren Commission and testified there, I know that they took, I have some copy of some transcripts like what I'm doing here. Actually, they talked to me. I have some of those. As far as actually ever come up with my own theories or something like that, I never have. I've always just went with what the evidence was been produced by the people of the Warren Commission and so forth is what they told me, actually when I talked to them.
You never really had to sign any statement or an affidavit.
Okay, let's take a break here. It's about 3 o'clock, and we'll take a breather. 3 p.m. We've had another little break now. It's about 10 minutes past 3, and we'll continue. Clarence, you're...
Yeah. In other words, you have not, to your knowledge, signed any statements. Let me ask you a couple other questions. Did you know Officer Tippett, the officer that was killed over in Oak Cliff?
No, sir. I never knew of an officer by that name until this actually happened, and his name came into print, and then I guess everyone has known his name.
Right. Did you know Jack Ruby?
No, sir. I didn't know him either.
Okay, that's about the end.
You got any miscellaneous ones?
No, I just wanted
All right.
to-
I just got a couple of questions, so we won't have to interrupt your narrative. Do you know if Lee Harvey Oswald smoked? Do you remember him? Cigarettes or pipes or cigars? Or just if you recall.
To the best of my knowledge, I never saw Lee Harvey Oswald smoke any type of anything, a pipe, a cigar, cigarette, or anything.
All right. Do you ever remember him wearing glasses? I wear glasses sometimes, and sometimes I don't. You ever see a pair on him for any reason? I'm talking about reading glasses, but if you recall sunglasses, that might help jog your memory.
Not to my knowledge, sir.
All right. Let's talk just briefly about his clothing. Did he wear different clothes than most of the guys? For instance, like they might have come from a foreign country. We heard something about him being in Russia or something. I was wondering if his clothing looked different.
Give me the texture of his clothing.
Anything. I figured you'd be a good man to ask. You're in the clothing business. As you think back about it, did his shoes look any different, for instance? Different color, different material, different style?
He was dressed a little bit different than some of the guys worked there. Most of us, just wore Levi's and T-shirts or something like that in the summer months because it was hot. I have been shown some of the clothing that he wore. Matter of fact, the day that he was captured. I wouldn't say it was that much different, but it was plain. Everything he wore was what I'd call a very conservative, plain look to it. It was nothing very fancy,
I was wondering if he ever gave you the impression that he had access to clothing like a lot of people didn't. For instance, if his clothing looked a little different, maybe he found a budget store someplace that most people didn't know about. If you admired his shirt, maybe he had a different kind of shirt on. And where'd you get that? Well, I got it a long way from here. Maybe he could get you one. Something on that order.
Yes, sir. I understand your line of questioning there. I notice his clothes like I take particular interest in everyone. A lot of times when I see someone, I look at their clothing. I look at their clothing more closely now because I work in the clothing business. But at that time, I didn't. At that time when I worked for Lee, I didn't look at his clothing that hard. But he'd come to work sometimes dressed a little bit different than the rest of us would, because sometimes we'd only wear a pair of Levi's and a T-shirt, as I said earlier, and maybe he would come to work with a pair of pants or slacks, whichever you prefer to call them. They weren't blue jeans, and they wasn't of the blue jean type material, the denim type.
How about the shoes? Were they work shoes or dress shoes?
That I can't remember.
All right. Let me ask you this. When you got your job at the book depository, did you have to give any references? Did you have to put down a couple of people's names for somebody? Or did you just get hired?
What I did was the employment agency sent me over there to apply for the job. They had already screened me, so I put my references down to the employment agency. And so therefore, at that time, Texas School Book Depository let the employment agencies do most of their screening.
I understand.
They would more or less pick the individual from appearance and so forth.
Now, with regard to the talk, you know how the guys talk, the shop talk, etc. This was November, generally speaking, just before this thing happened. I guess that's hunting season. Was most of the talk about hunting, guns, buying and selling guns, firearms in general? Did you have much conversation about that, either with him during these rides back and forth, or on the job? Or?
On our rides back and forth to work, Lee and I, we never talked about firearms because I didn't know that I didn't even know at that time that he owned or he possessed a firearm. So therefore, I didn't know where he was interested in that. As I said earlier, I got the best responses out of him about the weather, the traffic, or his children. He would talk more freely about that. And I kind of concentrated on it and trying to, rather than make the trip or the ride back and forth while I was commuting dull, I would kind of center my conversation on that because I could get an answer out of him. And at that time, that seemed to me what he was more interested in, was talking on that subject. So I stayed with those subjects. I didn't get off on anything else. But as far as the men working there, that's a football season.
Right.
And either college or high school or pro.
Right.
And you know, at that time, Dallas wasn't doing too well in the pro ranks.
Right.
As far as professional football, so I still am. I still watch college football a lot. I make a lot of my own predictions on the outcomes of the games, and a lot of the conversation revolved around, you know, the sports area, because that's what most of the men that worked there, we had that was more of a common barrier, because everyone mostly liked sports that worked there.
You weren't in on conversations about, why don't you, I got a certain kind of gun, can we trade guns or swap guns, or you want interested in buying a gun I got? We're interested in firearms, that part of it.
No, sir, I never talked to him about that at all, because, like I said, I didn't know he was even interested in anything like that, and being from the country, a lot of times I found out that people come from the city, they not only don't possess or own one, they never even fired one, so therefore you can't discuss something with someone that you don't know anything about.
How about yourself? Were you coming from the country? I guess you were indoctrinated with guns or rifles or shotguns or...
Yes, sir. My stepfather, I guess one of the first actual firearms I ever fired other than like a BB gun or a pellet gun was a .22 rifle. And he would sometimes take me out and let me, shoot at tin cans, but only under his close supervision.
Okay.
And from there I grew on up, as after I got over, sometimes I'd go out, squirrel hunting with one of the boys I went to high school with.
In 1963, did you own a gun?
Yes, sir, in 1963 I did own a gun.
What kind was that?
I owned a British 303.
They call that an Enfield?
Yes, sir. They call it an Enfield. It had been somewhat customized according to the people I bought it from, which I bought it from Sears and Roebuck.
Here in Dallas?
No, sir. I ordered it when I lived in a small town in East Texas. I ordered it from our local Sears store there. They had, how they come out with their little sales papers. And
that's Huntsville? Is that a small town?
Yes, Huntsville, Texas. A little Sears and Roebuck there. I purchased it from there.
Was that in 63?
I don't remember the exact year I purchased the weapon, but I was looking for a weapon that I could hunt deer with. And it was price wasn't that bad. I don't remember exactly what I paid for it. But I owned that weapon, and I owned a 410 shotgun.
What kind was that? If you recall.
I don't remember the brand name. I know some of the brand names like Savage and stuff like that, but this is it's more of an off-brand type, but it's a very good little 410 shotgun. I wanted them contests while going to high school, selling magazines. I took FFA, and we had a sale contest on farm magazines, and I won it by selling magazines.
I don't know what FFA means.
FFA is Future Farmers of America.
Oh, okay.
At full-time, that's single barrel.
Yes,
That's
single
a little,
shot.
that's a little bit. All right, now just one other question, a little out of context, but did you ever meet Marina, that's Oswald's wife? Or he had a mother by the name of Marguerite? You know, the family.
I have never met Marguerite Oswald. I'm not sure where I've actually ever met Marina or not. I know, as I've said earlier, that my sister, talked with some of the women in the area. Now, I have seen her like walking up and down the sidewalk with children. As far as actually really knowing and talking a lot to Marina, I don't think I ever have.
Well, if you did meet her, you didn't really get to know her. She was just a lady in the neighborhood that had a young child or two. All right. The only other thing I can think to ask, just to more or less clear the decks, would be, did Oswald ever give you, or did you ever see him reading or carrying what I would call a leaflet? Something about maybe political purposes to it, about Cuba, about Russia, about politics here in the country. You know how they pass out this stuff from some time or another with a political idea behind it one way or another.
Yes, sir, I understand what you're saying. No, sir, I never have. Now, I've seen articles and so forth said that where he was active in, they got in New Orleans giving out pamphlets and so forth like that. But actually, ever see him leave with any type of leaflet or propaganda like that, I never have. He never showed me anything like that.
All right. Now, we can just get into this chronology. Now, we understand that basically you had an arrangement with Oswald that you rode him to work, from work on Friday nights, and then you took him back to work on Monday mornings. Now, as far as Monday afternoon and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday were concerned, he just went to his other place, and you were not concerned with that. So, there was one deviation from this Friday afternoon, Monday morning arrangement you people had, and that happened to be November 21st, the day before the assassination. For some reason or another, he rode home with you on Thursday night instead, if that's correct. Is that
Yes, sir,
about right?
that's correct.
All right. If you could kind of tell us from the ride home why, to begin with, you rode him home on Thursday nights, and then we'll just tell us how it developed riding to work the next day.
Okay, how that all started was that I was busy filling the order, and he came up to me and he said, if you don't mind, I would like to ride home with you this afternoon. I said, okay. And as I was later on working, I realized it wasn't Friday. And so when I saw him again later on that day, I said, today's not Friday. He kind of grinned and said, I know. And I says, he said, yes. He said, I want to go out to Irving to pick up some curtain rods. He says, Marina has made me some curtains for my apartment. So I said, very well. And I never did ask him anything else about it, why he wanted to go out. And that was it. I asked him a question, he answered me. And the man never had deceived me or lied to me before, so therefore that was closed. And so he rode out with me on Thursday afternoon. And we went on out to Irving, as we normally would have on Friday, and nothing was irregular about that, only other than the day. And then the next morning was the 22nd, of course. He came up to the house for which I was staying. He did not come in. He went right straight on to the car. He was carrying a package with him. I was sitting at the breakfast table, eating my breakfast, along with my sister's children. And my sister was over at the, how would you say it, the kitchen sink there where she was doing something around the kitchen sink there. I don't know whether she was washing dishes or what she was doing. She was over there doing something. And she told me, she says, you better get a hurry on. She said, must be late, because it says, here comes late. So I says, okay. So I began to eat my breakfast a little bit fast. Well, when he came on, and he went on out to the car. And he put his package on the back seat. And he stayed outside and waited for me out there. So I finished eating my breakfast quickly and went on in, brushed my teeth, and come back and picked my lunch up, which my sister had fixed for me. And I went out to the car and got in the car. As I was getting in the car, I just kind of glanced in the back seat, and there was the package there. Well, I didn't look at the package in a great detail. I asked him, I said, what's in the package, Lee? Or something very similar to that wording. He says, oh, don't you remember? He said, that's the curtain rods I told you I came out to pick up. I said, oh, that's right. He said, Marina had made you some curtains, and you need the rod to put your curtains up. So we went on, and we rode in to work as usual, like we would any Monday morning, except it was a Friday morning. And today it was kind of a foggy, kind of misty day, you know, and it had been in the papers earlier that today was the day that the President of the United States was coming to Dallas, and it had been talk over that, you know, guys at work and so around, you know, a lot of people said, well, finally the President of the United States is going to come see people of Dallas, you know, actually see how they live, you know, and maybe get where they actually see him rather than just see him on TV, and actually get to see him themselves. And there wasn't anything highly unusual about the whole thing. We went ahead and went down to the parking lot, which he always rode down to the parking lot with me, and the car I drove then, the old car, it had the indicator on there where you actually see where your battery was charging good or not, and the old battery was old, and so when I pulled up to park, I put the car up in park, and I just kind of idled the car for a little bit, and I was sitting there letting the battery charge, and he sat there temporarily, and he asked me what I was doing. I told him, I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and let the car run a few minutes, because I said, it's a little bit hard to start out there. I said, I think my battery is going down. And so he said, well, I'll go ahead and go on up to work. I said, okay, I'll see you up at work. And so he gets out, gets his package, and takes off, walking up by the tracks up toward where we worked. He worked in the same building I did. So I sat there a few minutes, and I decided, I said, well, driving in downtown and sitting here, I think, you know, I've charged up enough, it'll start, because I had problems with it starting. I don't know where I had a short in it that was pulling the juice out of my battery or not, because several times before, Billy had to give me a jump, or give me a push, and I would vice versa sometimes do that for him, because he had an old car, sometimes wouldn't start, so we helped one another. And Lee, while I was sitting there, charging up my battery, Lee had started off, as I said earlier, walking on up toward the other building. Well, I didn't pay that much great deal of attention to him or what he was doing. I got out of the car and for my lunch and so forth, and I was walking. As I walked along, a lot of times in the morning, I used to watch the locomotives switching the cars back and forth, and it's kind of amusing to me, being so close to downtown Dallas there, you know. It was kind of like out in the country in a way, but it was right downtown Dallas. And so I'd glance every so often in front of me, because I'd see him walking ahead of me, and I guess he was some distance, or maybe a good 100 yards or 150 yards or more in front of me. I didn't try to catch up with him, because I didn't have any need to try to catch up with him. I was just walking along, had plenty of time to get to work. We were not running late at the time, so I didn't see any need to run or walk aggressively to get to work on time. So I walked on up, and as I noticed, he went into the building. Well, when I came into the building, Lee had already disappeared somewhere in the building. I don't know where he went. I went and I put my lunch up, and talked with the fellas and just started a normal work day. And I know that morning some of the fellas was talking about it, said, yes, we want to be sure because we want to be sure to see the parade today. Because they already told everybody that worked in the building there, even the officers upstairs, that, and they'd come out on been out in the papers and I think on the radio and TV what time the parade would be. So we allowed it. They said everybody would get to watch the parade and stop working. If it wasn't lunch hour or something came up, the parade was late, well, we'd still have to go out and stop and see the parade. So did a little talk about that, off and on during the morning. People was excited about that. And so I said, we sure have a good, opportunity to see, what I mean? Said, so we're right here, it's going to come right here by the building. And everything went normal. There wasn't anything unusual about that day. Everybody acted the same, as they normally do.
Did you see Oswald later, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, something like that? The normal course of your duties?
Oh, yes, sir. I saw him during the morning working hours, just like I normally do. He around filling orders, like he was supposed to.
Nothing unusual?
No, sir, nothing unusual.
Now, if you recall, when was the last time you saw him?
The last time I saw him was sometime before lunchtime. I don't remember exactly how far before lunch. But I do remember on that day that the time of the parade was so close to our normal lunch hour that I had to eat my lunch. I'd walked out on the front steps of the school book depository and I was talking with some of the people that worked there, and I was talking, Bill Shelley and Billy Lovelady. We were standing there, waiting for the parade, and just waiting to see the president come by. And I talked to some of the people there, and nothing, seemed highly unusual or anything,
All right. We'll just ask you a couple of questions now. We'll kind of start at the beginning. We talked about Thursday afternoon when Oswald indicated he wanted to ride home with you, kind of break the schedule by one day a little bit. Let's see. You rode home that day, and as far as you were concerned, it was just like a Friday afternoon, except you were one day early. And he mentioned about the curtain rods that day, indicating that Marina had made him some curtains, so he would be buying some curtain rods. Did he say where he was going to get them, the curtain rods? Did he indicate, I'm going to get them around the corner or up the street? Or
no, sir, he didn't say. We never even talked about that. All he said was he was going out to pick up the curtain rods.
She had made him some curtains.
For his apartment.
Do I get the impression that she made him the curtains and she kept them? Or he had already taken them to his apartment earlier? Or I was wondering how that worked.
Well, I don't exactly know that, how that worked. All I know is that he said he was going out to pick up some curtain rods. And he told me why, because she had made the curtains.
Right. Whether or not he had already taken the curtains to the apartment, or whether she was keeping them, we didn't get into that.
No, we didn't talk about that, and I didn't know anything about that.
All right. Now, the next morning, and incidentally, is this regular time that he comes over to your place? 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever, if you remember.
Okay, we had to be to work at 8 o'clock. I know we started working at 8 o'clock.
So you had to leave at 7?
We usually left just a few minutes after 7 because the traffic's pretty heavy.
Okay.
Going into downtown Dallas that time.
Does he normally come over and get in your car, or do you pick him up, or how did that usually work?
Well, he seemed to come a little bit early that day. A little bit earlier, because usually I was already out, messing around the car, checking, make sure I didn't have any flaps, or sometimes I'd check my oil and, water my radiator. I'd already be outside, waiting for him. But this morning he was a little bit early. But
normally he would walk up to where your car is parked. But this morning, well, I guess he did that, but he was just a little earlier than usual. Not much earlier, right?
Yeah.
Because you were almost ready for work, eating breakfast, I think you said.
Yes.
Your sister sees him out. What did he do? Just standing there? Is that what she saw? Or?
Well, she saw him as he walked down the sidewalk.
He didn't blow the horn or anything?
No, he didn't blow the horn or anything. He just went on to the car.
Where was your car this time?
The car was parked beside the carport.
Oh, it wasn't In the driveway, like?
No.
No, it was outside?
No, they, where they live there, they just had the one-car garage, and I used to just park right there beside the little carport type of garage.
No.
And that way, in case, they want to back the car out or something like that, they didn't, I wouldn't have to get out and move the car.
Okay.
So anyway, he just sat down in the car and waited for you. That's about the way it was. When you walked out there, he was in the car.
No, sir, he was, if I remember correctly, he was just standing right outside.
Standing beside it.
He was standing beside the car.
Oh.
Like as if, he was just waiting, for me to come outside.
Now I got the impression that he put the package in the car.
Yes, sir, he'd already put the package in the car.
Now, let me see. You always locked the car.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't have any trouble putting the package in the car.
Well, I know I've told you that previously, that I always locked the car. Well, I did, but if I remember correctly on that old car, I believe one of the back doors, you try to lock it, but you didn't lock it. It looked locked, but it wouldn't be locked.
Well, usually it's a button, push the button down, like on the windowsill.
But to the best of my knowledge, that was the thing was wrong with the car. You can make it look like the door was locked, but it wouldn't. You can just push it and it opened right up.
This was one of the odd parts about that particular car, and I guess
Yes,
he
old.
knew that. He figured that one out.
I guess he had.
Okay. All right. Like on the windowsill.
But to the best of my knowledge, that was the thing was wrong with the car. You can make it look like the door was locked, but it wouldn't. You can just push it and it opened right up.
This was one of the odd parts about that particular car, and I guess
Yes,
he
old.
knew that. He figured that one out.
I guess he had.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, so when you get in the car, he gets in the car, and then you just see the package, and he tells you this is.
Yes,
This is
as I was
curtain rod.
getting in the car and sitting down, I glanced over my shoulder, simply what I was doing, and I asked him, I said, "What's the package?" And he said, "Oh, don't you remember?" He said, "That's a curtain rod," or he said something very similar to that phrase.
He wouldn't have said, if you remember, he wouldn't have said curtain rods and the curtains. He was just talking about curtain rods.
Yes.
All right. It seems that they just kind of go together. I was just want to clarify that, if you remember. All right. So you're driving to work, and there's nothing remarkable happens driving to work, and you just park, and he leaves a little before you do because you're trying to kind of add a little bit to this battery that's might be acting a little weak. So he just goes ahead and walks ahead of you, and you're not running late, but so you got a couple minutes to kind of rev up the engine and strengthen the battery a little bit. But when you get out of the car, he still hasn't made it all the way into the building, as you can see him, and he's carrying his package. Because there's no sense in running to catch up with him. There's no particular purpose. Do you remember that particular day how he was dressed?
No, sir, I couldn't tell you every item of clothing he was wearing that day. No, sir, I could not.
All right.
Was he dressed for work?
Yeah.
In other words, did he have to change clothes, or were you dressed for work? When you went in, did you have to change into work clothes, or you worked in the clothes that you went to work with?
I worked in the clothes that I went to work in.
Did he have to change clothes?
Not that I know of, because, he wore the clothes just like he worked in. Now, that is very good, because some of the guys worked there, they came dressed nicer, because they had to ride the buses in, from some of the outlying areas, and they didn't want to, wear the old Levi's and so forth. So they'd bring, they'd have a change of clothes there at work, or they'd either bring, some during the week where they kept fairly clean clothes,
Right.
When nothing unusual happened during the morning, he just went about his business, and I guess you went about yours.
Yes, sir.
And the parade was going to be the only thing to make that day a little different than any other day, but that wasn't until around lunchtime sometime. But when lunchtime came, let's see, did you see Oswald around lunchtime?
I might just walk off.
Thank you very much.
Oh, maybe I'll have it done.
Yeah. Let's take a short break here at 3:38. All right, it's 3:45. We've had a couple-minute break here. We will continue under the same circumstances. The attorney is still absent, but we're still in the office with Mr. Frazier and Maxwell Day and myself. So, in any event, we were recapping on this on the 22nd of November, and as I say, you got to work, and you had or had not seen Oswald about lunchtime. I don't remember whether you said you saw him. I know you said you had seen him just going about his regular duties, but in terms of lunchtime, was he around then?
I saw him that morning, as I said previously, and you said also, but I don't remember exactly about what time I saw him last. But I did see him frequently that morning working, and there was nothing, unusual about his pattern of work.
All right. So, and then I think you ended up by saying that you decided that you were going to step out front and watch the president come by with Billy Lovelady and
Bill Shelley.
And was there anybody else out there you remember at the time?
There was some of the women that worked upstairs in the different publisher's office. They were there also, standing on the steps. There was one large, heavy-set lady. She was blonde-headed then. I can't remember her name. But I know Bill Shelley would know her because she'd worked there for years. We were all right there.
Incidentally, I've been to the depository, and the front door is kind of, there's an indentation, like a covered area. You've got 6 or 7 steps that lead up to the front door. That's really kind of undercover. In other words, if you stood way back by that front door, you couldn't have to see very well. You almost have to get down on some of the steps to get down near the sidewalk. Do you recall if you were way in the back by the front door, or were you out a little bit?
Okay, actually, when I first went out there, we was out there close, and as you were saying, you approach it, come up the steps, and you come in, there's kind of a little entrance hallway, there's kind of a little indent. At first there, was standing out in the sun, and then saw that it looked like the parade was going to be a little bit late, so we stepped back in, several of us stepped back into the shadow there, and waited, and then you could tell by the sound of the people that the parade was going. So we stepped out, then out and on to the steps.
I beg your pardon. Yes. I didn't hear that. You said that by the sound of the people, you could tell that the parade was coming. Is that what you said?
Yes, you could tell that they. You could tell by the sound because he had a motorcycle escort, and you could tell by the people, cheering and so forth. That when he got close.
Right.
Actually, when he turned on to Houston Street there, because he had kind of a little short area down Houston Street there before he turned. Mm-hmm. Well, then when you could see from there where we were standing, that little indent, you could see down in there that when they came on to Houston Street. So we stepped out more into the sunlight there, where we could see better. Because that's, it's not every day that you could see the President of the United States come by in a motorcade just a few feet away. As I said earlier, you've always seen it on TV and seen it in magazines and so forth like that. But actually to see it firsthand, live, I never had. And so I, like a lot of the other people there, they was enthused by it, that he had decided to come to our city, and actually see what type of people the people of Texas actually were. Because if I remember correctly, he had been to several cities there in Texas. I think he'd been to Houston right before he'd come to Dallas. And I think he was impressed by the warm-heartedness of the people of Texas. It's often said that a true Texan has a very large heart. I think he actually found out the true meaning of that. The true people of Texas, that was raised and born in Texas, are very kind people, if you let them be,
So anyway, just continue then what your experiences were from the time you started to see the motorcade approach you in terms of Houston Street.
Okay, I know some of the girls that work there in the offices above, you know, they stepped out into the sunlight with me there, and I know the big heavy-set lady, she was right there, I was right there always close to her. Because at first they wanted to get down and get close to the curb, and I said, and the crowd was very bad, and I said, well, I said, you might get trampled out there, or something to that effect. I said, you know, I said, sometimes people in a situation like this, they don't have to control themselves, you know. And I said, I think it'd be best that we stay back up here on the steps, because I said, we're up higher, we can see, and we have a better view. And so some of the women, you know, they said, that sounded like a good idea. But meanwhile, Billy and Billy Lovelady, referring to as I say Billy, and Bill Shelley, they wanted to get a little bit closer. Like naturally, being men, you know, I figured they take care of themselves. They could, in other words, they could hold their own in a crowd where it's like pushing and shoving, you know. As they approached there, as the motorcycles approached there to the where they turned off of Houston Street onto the Elm, which they have to turn on Elm, that goes down under the triple underpass there. The motorcycle policemen that were leading the parade looked like two of them were very good friends there to me, you know, because from being around a little bit around motorcycles, I knew when a motorcycle backfired, you know, and I was close enough there, you know, and I know that they'd, you can sometimes maybe cut your motorcycle off and back on, or you can do a truck the same way, you know, to make it backfire. Well, actually, you know, they had a couple of backfires there, you know, you could tell they were motorcycle backfires. And then a motorcade even, you know, came all around the corner there, and he was headed down toward the...
I just heard the click of a tape here.
Yeah,
Just a minute, I think we just ran out. We'll take a break now at 3:53.